And we are live. First annual UTHDynasty.com round one NFL draft hangout. I'm going to be here probably for the duration. Chad Parsons, you know me from Under the Helmet on a weekly basis. This is going to be unscripted. There's going to be potentially 10 other writers, contributors, friends of Under the Helmet that will be in and out over the course of the first round. With me to start, Katie Flower, you know her. She's written a ton of articles, and she's actually you've helped develop some of the writers at the site. So we were just talking off air. You're relatively new to Dynasty, but not new to NFL and this whole scouting and drafting process.
That's correct. Thanks, Chad. It's real fun to be here. I'm excited. Looking forward to the draft, and I'm looking forward to seeing what surprises are going to come.
Absolutely. And we kind of think, Doug put me on the spot with the podcast this week of, he put out like 10 guys or so, and it's just where are they going to go? What landing spot? I honestly don't remember all my answers, but I know the track record for folks predicting player to team in the round one. It's basically if you get 6 or 7, you had a heck of a year projecting things. And we kind of think we have 101 all lined up here with Jameis Winston going to Tampa Bay, but you never know because I've heard it's not a sure thing with his off the field issues.
Yeah. He's of all the players, and I was telling my boyfriend this earlier today, of all the players in this draft, my mind has changed more about Jameis Winston since the end of the college football season. I absolutely loathe the kid, and I've learned so much about him. I'm serious. I wasn't going to pick him. I'm not a big risk. I like the clean guys, the guys that are going to work hard. I like the kids that are showing up first for work, great, nose in the books kind of guys. And I really have become impressed by Jameis Winston, and he's very intelligent. And what really sold me on him was was it Mariucci or when he did the whole thing on the chalkboard at the combine, where he had to remember the play and talk to the guy for 15 minutes. It was, I think it was Mariucci.
Yeah. And I'm right there with you that, I like the guys where I don't really feel like I need to worry about them off the field. And I know there's been a lot of comparisons. Well, look at guys like Ben Roethlisberger. Would you trade basically his track record and sort of his discretions, but also the high points of him with the Steelers? And you see some of those same traits with Winston. And I honestly, going the other direction, I have a lot of questions about Mariota in the sense that it's like for Winston, I kind of feel like I think he can play and transition to the NFL style offense and just less concerns about that translation. But with Mariota, it's like you go the complete other way where you don't have those concerns, but yet you wonder how he's going to progress on the field.
Well, exactly. You saw the article that I wrote, a couple weeks ago about practice makes perfect.
Yeah.
And as a coach, as somebody that spent a lot of time developing young players, the one thing that scares me about Mariota is, he hasn't taken a snap under center since high school. He hasn't called a play from huddle. Those things, they're not natural. And it's a big difference in your vision. It's a big difference in the timing. It affects every part of your game. And you're getting thrown a big, huge playbook. It's not that he's not gifted. He's a very intelligent kid, very athletic, but they don't give you time anymore to develop. You're thrown to the wolves. You either have to sink or swim. And I just fear that unless he gets into a system like the Eagles that know how to utilize what he's already doing, I fear that he's going to sink.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is I always say that rushing is sort of the fast track to relevance for fantasy quarterbacks because you can kind of run around the Michael Vick. I mean, even to a poor man's level, run around, not know what you're doing from a passing, reading the defense standpoint your first year or two in the NFL, and you're still going to be probably a mid quarterback 2 or a little higher as a floor. And so that's the positive, and Mariota provides that. But then it's, well, what happens long term when you actually, at some point, right? The Greg Cosell argument, at some point, you got to stand in the pocket and make the difficult throws and keep the drive going on 3rd and 8. And
Exactly.
it's like, so from a fantasy sense, you get the Alex Smith of, hey, he can run around if he runs for 400 or 500 yards. Hey, I'm a happy camper for a fantasy starter perspective, but
Right.
I don't really have a long-term guy I trust. And so that's the push-pull. I kind of feel like Winston has the more long-term projectability. Mariota has the better short-term. He's going to come in and be a matchup play for quarterback 2 or better. And then, but we don't know how that's going to affect things long-term. So, yeah, at the top of this draft, it's just, I think, fascinating because we don't have that surefire quarterback.
Right, and not to compare Winston to Luck by any means, but it's a very similar Luck versus RG3, Winston versus Mariota, the two different styles. And from my experience to make it in the NFL, it's more the Winston style or the Brett Hundley style that if you're going to be thrown to the wolves, you got the better chance to succeed. And from a fantasy perspective, Mariota, I think, will be a lot like an RG3. Start off maybe hot and like a Kaepernick, and when defenses start to really watch film and key on him, I hope you sold your stock before you get to that point.
Right. And joining us, we got Tim. Tim 1 of potentially Tim 2 tonight. Another contributor at UTH. We're just getting started, and 101 pick is in, so perfect timing. Welcome, Tim. And
it's Winston.
Doing?
Winston.
What's up?
Hey, Tim.
And you're a trooper because you're doubtful. You're actually from, it's like you're in the ER.
I'm on the IR squad tonight, man. Yeah.
But you're playing.
That's right. Play through the pain.
That's right. Taking it to the field.
There's not a better time to be in with the entertainment than watching the draft from the hospital, though. I'll say that. That's a great distraction. You're not watching reruns of General Hospital.
I hope
True.
you got something good in your IV drip.
I'm looking forward to this all day.
Yeah, so weigh in on the quarterbacks here with Tampa Bay. We expected, heavy odds that it's going to be Jameis Winston. Where do you sit on Winston in terms of his off-field concerns and what you kind of expect from him on the field?
I think he would have success on the field. My concern with him is definitely the off-the-field issues. I mean, nothing to be compared to Johnny Manziel last year, who I completely wrote off. But he made me nervous enough that if I was the Buccaneers fan, I wouldn't be too thrilled about it.
Yeah, it kind of seems like they're in a no-win situation, right? You're at the top of the draft for a reason. They have the young pieces with Austin Seferian-Jenkins, Mike Evans. You even have Vincent Jackson still perfectly useful, and they just need someone throwing the rock. And Evans could go for 1,500 this year if they get someone comparable. And you feel like they have to take a quarterback, yet you don't have that bulletproof prospect. They don't get lucky like the Colts.
Right.
There we go. Commissioner's on the podium.
It's exciting. And there it is. Mr. Winston.
Winston, yep.
Oh, I'm on delay then. There it goes.
We're gonna be ruining it for Katie all night. This is
Yeah, you sniped me all the time during the draft the other day when we were doing that rookie draft. You were sniping me. Now you get to spoil me.
I'm sniping your picks on the real NFL draft. So this was chalk. We had already been talking about it a little bit. So now Winston. We talked about Mariota potentially having a quarterback 2, quarterback 16 type floor. Does Mariota have that does Winston have that with the weapons already in place and him coming in, not afraid to, stare down the gun barrel and basically just throw it deep to some of his big targets?
I'll tell you, I'm excited for my Mike Evans and Austin Seferian-Jenkins stock, big time.
Did I kind of felt like this whole offseason I had to come to the defense of Mike Evans, saying that there's a good argument for him being the number 1 or number 2 overall dynasty asset, and my argument was, look what he did as a rookie. He has prototypical size. He's already scoring a ton of touchdowns before basically barely he can drink in the NFL. Right. And he did that with horrible quarterback play. horrible.
Yeah.
And now he gets someone who it's going to be better than horrible, right? I mean, Winston, he can't be worse.
Yeah.
And he's 21, 22 years old. So, I mean, I kind of feel like it's dumb that I would have to make that argument to some people, but it's real that some people don't have Evans in the top 10 overall for their dynasty boards.
Yeah, that's something I've been looking to take advantage of in trades and whatnot.
Yeah, I was able to get Evans plus for Demaryius Thomas, and I was happy to do that because to say that Demaryius Thomas is a lock favorite to even outscore Evans this season, even with Peyton Manning, which he's taped together with duct tape. I mean,
they're going to be running the ball.
39. You got to admit, he's a young 39.
Right. I mean, but just imagine if Thomas didn't have all those smoke screens that he took to the house. I mean, where would he be? Peyton barely got it out to him. I mean, how many deep balls did he get? I mean, Tim Tebow delivered more deep balls to Demaryius Thomas over the years than Peyton did last year.
Is this going to be the first time in like forever that we haven't had the top two walk to the podium and get a hat and a shirt?
It might be.
I can't even remember the top picks not being at the draft.
Yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't want to be there just because this is a huge event in their lives. I mean, this is the culmination of high school, college, this entire strenuous draft process now that's basically like graduating from college in and of itself. I just kind of feel like you should be in the most comfortable environment possible. Because what if you fall? I mean, what if? I mean, it wasn't really going to happen for Winston, but just I wouldn't want to have that.
Like Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I mean, that's painful. And
Johnny Manziel last year.
Yeah.
Regardless of how it turns out, I mean, just you don't want that risk of. You'd rather be consoled in your home field, your home environment there.
Well, now he can have some crab legs too. He doesn't have to wait.
Right. He could have his mama buy him, right?
That's right.
So let's get to this. Is actually the big pick, and from all I've been hearing, I boned up with a lot of the Mel Kiper, Todd McShay kind of talk leading up to this week, and this is the pick of the draft, right? Are they going to trade it? They made a strong argument for taking Mariota, even if they believe in Mettenberger, because can you have enough quarterbacks? Now you have two chances. I know Doug is completely on the other side. Like, if you like Mettenberger at all, you got to take another position. What are your thoughts on that, Tim?
I'm personally not that much of a fan of Mettenberger, and I think if I were them, I'd probably be trying to trade it away. But if you can't, then you got to take Mariota, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because if you don't have a quarterback,
what do you have?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What are your thoughts, Katie?
Well, just like when Troy Aikman was a rookie, they had that other kid.
Steve Walsh. Was it Steve Walsh?
What's that?
Was it Steve Walsh?
It was Steve. It might be Steve Walsh. It was somebody that they were saying, oh, he's better than Aikman, and I was like, no way. Aikman is going to win this battle, and then they'll end up, the other guy will just either get traded or whatever. But it doesn't. When you've got a young guy like Mettenberger, to have another person like Mariota in there, just have them battle it out. Whoever develops, it's going to help your team. It's going to force one or the other to step up for real.
Yeah, and I agree. I think Tennessee has some real holes. I mean, I keep referring back to they've sunk in high picks into Kendall Wright and Justin Hunter in recent drafts. Bishop Sankey, I mean, as much as I think he's kind of a trendy value, they've been talking about going to a power run game. Potentially, that's 3 picks in the top 2.5 rounds of late at the skill positions. And you would say that
Hakeem Nicks now.
Yeah, and you would say their offense is not really close. Even using all that capital, you wouldn't say they're a quarterback away from being this top-notch offense. So they have a lot of holes, and I kind of think, I mean, they brought up, well, what if they just took Amari Cooper here? I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with that either. Obviously, the odds-on, I think, is that they'll go defense here. But I think they should trade it, even if it's.
I think they should get all they can get. And
this stupid draft chart. First of all, I mean, saying that you have to get this plus this plus this or no deal. It depends on the team. Like, what if Cleveland offered their 2 first? Like, why wouldn't you take it if you're not close and you don't like Mariota?
Right. You have to love Mariota if you're going to keep him. And the pick is in, so no trade.
Oh, now you're spoiling it for us. What's going on here?
I didn't say who it is. I'm just saying it says the pick is in.
I was thinking it wasn't in.
Well,
I was
I
convinced
love
they were
this. I
going
love
to
when
trade
they.
this one. I'll be really surprised if they don't end up trading it.
I love it when they show the war room and it's like, oh, what is this? They're happy with their pick. They're shaking hands. I want to see someone punch someone in the gut.
yeah.
Like, I can't believe you just did that.
Yeah, it's like you know that a lot of these kids are going to bust. It's inevitable, but everybody's always happy. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
let's pick the guys that are going to bust. Like,
Yeah.
Ryan Leaf was a pretty easy call, and
Yeah, it seems like no matter what, all the picks in round one, they always talk about how they're
Hey
all
guys,
going to hit.
I gotta bow out here.
Gotcha. Thanks for coming by, Tim.
I'll be back later.
all right,
Roger.
Tim. See ya.
Is that everyone's so positive as part of the draft process with they're always with part of this draft process, it's always about, oh, they're all great, they're gonna, everyone's gonna be a long-term starter, potential all-pro, and it's just, I think, and I know they're trying to pump it up as a positive event, and it is, but I wish with the coverage they talked a little more about their possible holes, maybe why they would fail, other than off the field. I'm sure with Winston they mentioned that, but just, I wish, because we kind of look at it all encompassing because we're investing in them as much as these teams are a lot of times for our dynasty teams, and it's like, we know the positives and negatives for every single player, which I think is a great thing, and it seems like they don't really look at it all the way like that.
Right. It's like last year when the Cowboys were on the clock, I was just begging that they would not take Manziel. Because there was that rumor, remember? And I was like, please, no. And when they passed, I was like, oh, thank goodness.
There we go. This is they actually picked, so no trade, quarterback or bust here. Let's see what we got.
I hear booze. Or is that
it is Mariota.
Hey, you're ahead of me.
Sorry, I'm gonna do a 5-second pause next time.
Okay, so they took him.
Yeah. So we've got chalk. We've got what was actually predicted all along, and we thought this was a big time trade spot, and either they didn't like it or, they just at the end of the day take another quarterback, and let's see what we got. Again, Mettenberger, he falls to mid to late day 3 last year, but it was mainly because of he had some injuries. He wasn't quite the most squeaky clean guy. So arm talent wise, Mettenberger was sort of like a day 2 arm talent. And I know Greg Cosell really likes him. I really like the tape I saw as a rookie, being able to stand in the pocket. And now you can make the argument for Mariota. You're going to get that transition process of, hey, he doesn't need to start week 1. If Mettenberger's playing well, he doesn't even have to start by mid-season. You get a lot of transition time to maybe progress this guy in terms of a pro offense. As you said, all those skills he needs to learn.
I just think, for everything that Tennessee needs, I'm a little shocked that they took this guy. And it's not that I don't like Mariota, and I do like him a lot, and I love the squeaky clean, nice kid that he is. And he's a gifted athlete. There's no question about it. But now here's a question: what do you do if you're in a super flex and you've got Mettenberger? Do you hold and hope that he has a good start to the season and then sell real quick, or?
I honestly think it's kind of gone. With that singular pick, and I was a fan of Mettenberger, but the writing's on the wall because they're going to have every. Long term, Mariota is sort of where they're going to make their money in terms of that front office staying together, being successful. Now, if it's a situation where he literally is lighting it up, and again, I have questions about the weapons, so I don't even know how much help Mettenberger gets. So maybe what that offense needs is a mobile quarterback that can just sort of run around, extend plays, get some first downs on the ground, because it's an offense in flux, I think, that's going to have a heavy task to try to catch Andrew Luck.
The pick is in for the Jaguars.
Yeah, that's a quick one. And
that's a very quick one.
Well,
so
again, this is probably
Williams.
this is probably ideal for Jacksonville because you get two quarterbacks off the board. They weren't looking quarterback. Now they basically get their top
They
player.
get their top. Yep. So is it going to be Cooper, you think, or you think they're going to go with the defense and go with like Williams or Dante Fowler?
Yeah, I think it's got to be defense. But the interesting subject that I heard is, as an Allen Robinson owner, would Cooper be a death knell? And
I
this
think
talk of, is Robinson really a number 2 in the NFL? I mean, I think he's a little better than that. But all this would kind of hinge on, if you're taking Cooper, it's like you better really believe in Bortles because you're wasting a lot of ammo on these pass catchers if you don't have someone to get them the rock.
I think that if they take Cooper, it's a death knell for Blackman. I think that's. I don't think it's. I think it would help Robinson and his stock. I think that the two would grow up together.
Oh, I think that too.
Bortles. Yeah, and they've got Orange Julius there as a relief guy across the middle, big target there.
We could also put a stake in the heart of once and for all from Marquise Lee, right? I mean that he's going to be a middling slot guy and nothing else, if at best.
Right. And Alan Hearns, he did a lot more than I expected him to last year, but I still, he may end up hanging around.
He's limited though. I mean, again, what are you expecting with a guy that's not a vertical burner that at that size? I mean, what are you really expecting? And we have some guys in the receiver class this year that sort of fit that same mold of what's the real upside for us fantasy owners, because if he tops out at wide receiver 35 or 40, that's pretty marginal, and you really got to shoot the needle if you're looking to sell high when that's the production.
You got commercials there?
Yeah, now we'll break down the commercials.
Yeah. I don't even know if you're on the East Coast, right? I don't know if your commercials are even the same as mine.
Yeah, they gotta sell the local products.
Yeah. So
now we're gonna.
Who's your favorite team?
What's that?
Who's your favorite team?
Oh, I don't have one.
Oh, okay.
I really just I honestly don't care. I mean, I got some players I like and stuff like that. All right, let's bring in JoJo here. So we got another UTH writer contributor coming in here. Maybe not. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, I just got a text from Daniel Simpkins.
Yep.
And he's a big Tennessee Titans fan, and he says,
wow.
I really didn't understand this pick for the Titans. I say, me either. Give me some thoughts on what obviously he really wanted Williams.
Yeah.
Defensively, he would have been a nice fit.
Yeah, and so now we're waiting on the Jacksonville pick announcement. It takes them a long time to print up that card,
Right. Yeah.
They're using like a glue stick, and they're putting the printouts. It's like an arts and crafts project for third graders.
Yeah.
And,
I'm just waiting for somebody to pick David Putney.
So Jacksonville's got some work left to do, and anyway, they're getting the top player on their board, and Oakland, again, so now we're coming up on Oakland. We'll wait for this pick from Jacksonville, but Oakland is the real Amari Cooper, right? I mean,
yeah.
this is going to be a high percentage because you're getting a lot of people had the Winston, Mariota, and Cooper combos. I mean, that's 3 out of 4 at a minimum for most people if you were just keeping your ear to the ground and for a lot of the scuttlebutt leading up to this draft.
Yeah. Daniel says that he's not a fit for their system. He needs to sit for a year, and then he'll be. He goes, but I bet he'll be the day one starter. And he says, what's even more baffling is they say they aren't even open to trading now that he's been picked. And here comes the Jaguars pick.
Yeah, Jaguar pick is coming in. I won't say it. I'll let you announce it. Who are they picking?
Dante Fowler.
There we go.
No.
Getting an edge rusher from Florida. Some IDP love here. And let's bring in Tim.
State of Florida.
What's going on, everybody?
Tim joining the fray.
Tim too.
Oh man, Dante Fowler. That's a big move for them. They finally have that Leo lineman that they've been looking for all these years.
Nice. And we were talking, with the chalk 2 quarterbacks off the board, they basically got their top player. And we thought there was an outside shot, they go Amari Cooper. But basically, most of the draft process, it was projected that they were going to look for a rusher, and Fowler was one of those 2 options.
Well, just for the record, earlier today, my boyfriend asked me who were going to be the top 5 in the draft. I said Jameis Winston, Marcus Mariota, Dante Fowler, Amari Cooper, and Leonard Williams. So I'm 3 for 3.
Yeah, and I think you got a decent shot at 4, and you got a decent shot at 5. So
it was actually, last year there were some surprises at this time. I remember, I think it was the 3rd pick that threw me off last year.
I think the Redskins are a wild card. We say that. Unless the Raiders go rogue here.
Yeah.
But if I were them, I'd be running to the podium for Amari Cooper. But you never know because he doesn't run a 4.2. Oh wait, that's not the current Raiders. That's
right.
That's 10 years ago. Get Darius Hayward-Bay. I still get like a little dirty taste in my mouth thinking about Darius Hayward-Bay and some of these wide receivers. I was looking at the busts of the top drafted wide receivers. Top 10, they're pretty bulletproof if you know what to look for and what to avoid. You have the DHB, you got Tavon Austin, Ted Ginn, these sort of strange conversion players of they're more playmaker and returner than they are actual wide receiver. And other than that, you avoid those. And I was going over the list with Doug. It's pretty rock solid in terms of you're getting a quality player, both NFL and for fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't it Tavon Austin that Doug took it number 1 overall in his draft a couple of years ago?
I tease him about that. That never happened, and that's how the story goes by my view, though. But yeah, Austin's a real interesting one. I love it's interesting, all that topic of Austin, and there's like, oh, well, why is Cordarrelle Patterson worth so much more, even though they basically produced as rookies the same, and now basically you're sitting on, Patterson's worth a little more, but it's almost equally valued trash in terms of what you can get.
You know how recency bias can help out or hurt you? I had so many people last year saying that they weren't going to take Brandon Cooks because of Tavon Austin, because they got hurt. I'm like, okay, go for it.
Yeah, as if they're the same. Right. I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wrote a few pieces specifically trying to break down the difference of Brandon Cooks is not your typical small receiver. Small meaning, sub 200 pounds kind of, because he's thick and he's got elite speed and and the production is off the charts as a receiver. Like Tavon Austin, they always try to spin it from West Virginia. Stedman Bailey ran circles around him as a wide receiver producer in that same offense. And he goes in, 4 rounds later. It's like, Tavon Austin, it's like he's worth a song now. And Brandon Cooks, we're seeing top 15, probably. I haven't seen, startups over the last couple weeks, but I imagine he gets that nice uptick with Jimmy Graham gone.
Yes.
Definitely being interesting to see too what happens with Brian Quick going into this year. You're definitely going to see him coming back off of the injury, along with Stedman Bailey on the other side. It'll be interesting to see how much of a role Tavon Austin even gets going into this year.
Yeah, for the Rams offense, I actually write them up for Football Guys doing the team breakdown. And Brian Quick, people forget he was for a span of time in 2014. He was a rock solid wide receiver too. And let's not forget Kenny Britt. He played good soldier. And he was actually functional. He kick-started his production once Quick went out, but they've got 2 legitimate outside receivers if Quick, and I know he may not get much action prior to the preseason, so he's sort of a question mark getting out of the gate and keeping that momentum he was building up last year. They've got a quarterback change, a lot of moving pieces, but you got to think Tavon Austin isn't a huge part of their game plan in terms of seeing more than 50 targets and some returns, some gadget stuff. That's sort of who he is.
It also depends on the fit. Like some of these wide receivers, like Devin Smith, for example, depending on where he goes, will really depend on if he's going to be a good fantasy asset or not. He may still be a decent pro, but if he's going to be like a Torrey Smith and just go deep and then get pass interference and you don't get the yardage. And,
Yeah.
It's frustrating as a fantasy owner to have a guy that goes 3 games with zeros and then all of a sudden you get maybe 20 points or something like that.
Yeah. You get three for 80 and a touchdown, and it's the week you didn't start him because it was a bad matchup, or you've been putting up. He was your flex or wide receiver 3, and he put up 3 points and 2 points the last 2 weeks on 1 catch. Like that's Torrey Smith. Like I've owned him a lot, and it's just like, what was the point? Like best ball, he's great, and that's a shout out for Justin's. Best ball dynasty leagues. I mean, Torrey Smith gets a nice bump. All those deep targets you mentioned, Devin Smith. He could be the new version of that, where just that touchdown. That's when he started.
We'll see if Colin Kaepernick can actually hit any of those throws this year.
Amari Cooper.
There it is, and the chalk continues.
And Derek Carr now has a real nice target.
Yep. And so Cooper goes off the board, and again, this is as expected. I mean, Cooper, at worst, is the 102 in rookie drafts, and there's a lot of people that have him as the going away 101, and there's no argument against that. He's so silky smooth. I mean, I think his athleticism gets lost because he's such a smooth technician and route runner.
Yeah. As someone that is a big SEC fan, I watch a lot of Razorback games, and Amari has killed us through the years. The nice thing is, this last time we played Alabama, we shut him down and we shut Yeldon down, both of them.
So let's talk wide receiver a little bit. We got our first one off the board here, and I wanted to. Most people think there's going to be 5 off the board in round 1. What do you think in terms of? We know the obvious ones, I think. I'll just start this, and let's get into maybe who sneaks in at the end, because we're a few hours away from that. So we got Cooper, we got White, who's expected to go in the next, potentially 2 picks, 3 picks, certainly in the top 10 would be the expectation. Devontae Parker shortly thereafter. Brashad Perriman is supposed to go off the board in the top 15 or so. Now after that, I think that's where it really begins. So you have 4 off the board. Now, maybe not who you're rooting for to go, but because we all want to get those nice savory values, and the higher they go, it just blows that up for us. But who would be maybe the guys that go in the back half of the first to keep an eye on?
I think Dorial Green-Beckham is going to go. And I think, from what I hear, Nelson Aguilar is rated a lot higher than what I would want him for fantasy.
Yeah.
And him specifically, depending on what team takes him, will depend on whether or not I own any stocks of him.
Okay. What do you think? Tim?
I think 100% that Dorial Green-Beckham should go in the first round. I think his talent alone speaks for itself. I could easily see a team like the Bengals going in that direction.
Wow, Bengals,
Someone to go on the other side of A.J. Green to really give him a deep threat. I could also see Nelson Aguilar going in there. I am definitely not a fan of him. I live in Northeast Ohio, and I've heard rumors of him possibly going to the Browns of 19. I've heard a lot of Steelers fans that absolutely love him and think he's an AFC type of wide receiver. He just doesn't have the body that's built for being a number 1 type of receiver.
Yeah, I think also the Ravens are one that we could see pull the trigger on a wide receiver there, ending up in. And I know the Patriots closed the round. I mean, they like to trade out of that pick and move around a lot in the early rounds. So they may be one that looking for a pass catcher, but also they could just deal down because they see the depth of the position if they wanted a wide receiver. So I think Carolina wouldn't be a bad spot for a more possession type guy for Aguilar. So lots of variables there. Neither one of you mentioned Jalen Strong. Do you think Aguilar is more likely to go in round 1 than Jalen Strong?
I do. I think that if Jalen does go, it'll be after Aguilar.
Huh.
That's from what I've read and what I've seen. Doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. I'm not sure if Devin Smith is going to make it in the first round. I would say probably early second for both those guys. But Funchess, possibly. I'm even hearing maybe my Patriots might take
Yeah,
Funchess, which
that would be interesting, right?
that would be real interesting.
That movable chess piece to create matchups and just do the Belichick thing of
Exactly.
week to week be a frustration of is he going to get 0 targets or 8 and 3 touchdowns?
Exactly, and I would, as much as I love the Patriots, and I really do, I stay away from as many of their players except for Tom Brady.
Non-Gronks. Gronk is
And
the
Gronk.
Gronk is
Brady
the
and
rule
Gronk
breaker.
are the two safest guys.
And Gurley, if Gurley was to
What-
go there, or some
Yeah.
actual lead back, or would you still have some pause?
I would not draft Gurley at the 101 if he went to the Patriots. I'd take Cooper. And you know how much I love Gurley.
Now, would Gurley be 2, or would you move him down a little bit?
No, I would take him 2. But I wouldn't. If I had the one
Okay.
and the 2, I'd take both Cooper and Gurley. But if I only had the 1, I would take Cooper if Gurley goes to the Patriots. That's about one of the only landing spots for Gurley that I wouldn't take him first overall. And again, it's not because I think he's any less of a talent. It's just usage. You can never
Yep.
count on it.
And now we got a picker for the Redskins at 5, Brandon Sheriff from Iowa, and from
Okay,
here,
throw him off.
here in DC, I can tell you they do need some blockers. They needed guys on the front 7 on defense. They also could, almost any team could validate the drafting of an offensive lineman with. You just need them, and you got to protect your quarterback. You got to open lanes because a running back, by and large, is only as good as his blocking to a certain point. So. Anyway, Redskins have a lot of holes. I didn't expect them to go flashy and something that would really impact us from a dynasty perspective, but they get the big boy and Brandon Sheriff.
Yeah, this will
Looks
help.
like they're trying to. Go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
That's okay.
I was going to say it looks like they're kind of copying what the Cowboys are doing, looking to get that stud inside guard so they can really ramp up the running game. Alfred Morris at this point in his career will need as much help as he can get to get going against that defense, especially once the Cowboys get back Greg Hardy.
Yeah, in November.
So yeah, unflashy pick here, but one that we know, as we've seen with the Cowboys, you assemble that kind of talent on the offensive front, you get a little luck in terms of staying healthy, staying as that cohesive group. It can really help maximize your run game. And we saw RG3 as a rookie, his most successful point when he was a darling for all fantasy owners. It was based off a strong running game and adequate blocking that has pretty much evaporated, and going along with the injuries, that's just compounded everything as we've seen pretty much his demise. I wouldn't be surprised. All the water cooler talk here in DC is, we wouldn't be surprised if he's not even in DC after this coming season.
Yeah. So that's my one miss out of the top 5.
That's
so
right.
far.
That's right. You started off hot. Now you're probably going to miss 28 straight. That's just how we roll.
That's fine.
Now
I have it projected just a little bit further down, and I have no problem with this pick. Like Tim said, I think that they've got to keep up with the Joneses, and literally they've got them in the NFCs to have to contend with. So they're going to focus on the running game, protecting their assets.
So now we're at number 6. We're at the Jets, and this was a spot that I thought was kind of sneaky if Amari Cooper got past the Raiders. That didn't happen. Obviously, as someone who's going to have Cooper in some leagues, I prefer the Raiders over the Jets just from not that I have any historical evidence, but he's going to see more targets just right out of the gate in Oakland. They did get Brandon Marshall here. They still have Eric Decker. The Jets now are not going to get their quarterback. They didn't move up. Mariota didn't have a fall from 2 overall. So the Jets, I don't feel here we're going to be looking at a skill position player of note for us.
So you don't think that the play here would be to trade for a 2016 first and get that kid from Ohio State? What's his name? The big kid.
Cordero Jones.
That's
Yeah.
it. I was gonna say that, but I thought I was wrong. Yeah, trade for a 2016 first here.
Yeah. A lot of these teams, I mean, depending on what your angle is, I think trading down is not sort of utilized enough because these are lottery tickets, and you need to get more of them for a lot of these NFL teams, and
Jimmy
so
Johnson had that down to a science.
right. Um, so the Jets right here, and I think the Bears coming up at 7 are pretty interesting because I want to get both of your opinions because I'm not sold on as much as the metrics sort of like Marcus Wilson. I'm not sold on the Bears going into the season and saying you're our number 2, go get him.
I agree with that. I think they need and want Kevin White, and if Kevin White goes here with this pick, do they then trade back and get Perriman later, or do they just go ahead and get Perriman next?
Well, it's not like the Bears don't have defensive issues. I mean, they can obviously go defense, but
yeah,
I think they would love to get a long-term. I mean, if they paired Jeffrey and White, exactly. I mean, you're recreating sort of Marshall and Jeffrey from their prime period.
You also have to think about where the Bears' new offensive coordinator, Adam Gase, just came from. He came from Denver. Denver had they just drafted last year a very big wide receiver in Cody Latimer. They already had Demaryius Thomas, so obviously they like those big receivers. I wouldn't be surprised that if when they come on the clock, they would definitely go for a Kevin White, or if he wasn't on the clock, they would be looking to trade down, or maybe they would surprise everyone and go with a Devontae Parker.
I think they have to go with Williams. He's too talented of a player. They need the defense.
Yeah, I forgot to bring this up before Amari Cooper was selected at 4. We didn't bring up that, what are the odds? I mean, I did that UTH poll that only 50 to 75% of people thought that Amari Cooper would be the first receiver off the board. So we didn't even really discuss Kevin White potentially being, which was a legitimate subject for most of the pre-draft process of him being the ultimate number 1 receiver. I mean, he was the combine, Chris Conley aside, I mean, he was the most notable combine star that really burst onto the scene. I mean, I don't think he's a 4.35 guy, I mean, from all the tape I watched. So I hold that with a little more of a grain of salt because he's not going to be a vertical blow past you like some of the guys we see that are sub 4.4 in the NFL.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between combine speed and real game speed. And
White makes enough contested catches. I mean, that's really a staple of his game. Strong hands, ability to win through contact, through that contested catch point that makes it that he doesn't need to run by guys. I mean, he has enough explosion that he can take a short hitch route, make a guy miss, and outrun guys down the perimeter, something like that. But he's not a guy that's going to line up, run 9 routes, and consistently win over the top. And that's fine because you're going to throw it up. He's 6'3", he's got a good radius, strong hands, and that's plenty in the NFL when they're throwing more and more 50-50 balls.
Yeah, I look at one of the metrics I look at is how much these guys bench press as a wide receiver, and the guys that are physically strong are the guys that are going to have that advantage.
Yeah, and more than the guys that that put up the freakish offensive line numbers at whether it's tight end or wide receiver. I more want to look at the guys that can't bench what I can. Like that's alarming. Like if a guy can't, I mean, if they can't put up 225, at least 10 times, and they're a quote unquote pro athlete, I just don't know what to do there. I mean, so when I see the single digit guys, that's concerning to me. And there's not a lot of them. I know Kenny Bell was one of the guys. He did 7 reps this year. Most of the guys did at least 10 or 12 of the ones that I, notated. But yeah, Kevin White did 23 reps, as well as Sammy Coates. I mean, Sammy Coates is a huge.
Yeah, Leonard Williams.
There it is. They've got to be thrilled. They've got to be thrilled with that.
So I went 4 out of 5 in the top 5. That's not bad.
There you go. And so Leonard Williams, he was discussion at 2 overall, and I gotta wonder what the odds the Jets had on getting Williams all the way down at 6. I mean, the way they like to build defense, I mean, they could potentially have one of the best in the NFL.
There's also talk about them training Muhammad Wilkerson right now too. He's in the last year of his contract. He could be trade on the trading block now, so that they might try to get another first-round pick or package up something in the second round to try to get themselves back in the first.
All right, we got a little bit of time here. We talked about the Bears a little bit. Now, from the Peanut Gallery, we got Zach Law asking a question here on the chat. If you want to interact with us, ask some draft questions, maybe non-draft questions. This is going to be non-draft related, so we're getting saucy already. And he loves to tease me about my eating, nutrition habits. He's asking where my green smoothie is. I actually had it 30 minutes before we started recording, so I've been doing a double shake now during the day and put a bunch of stuff in there, and it turns out being green. Yes, Zach, over the years. So anyway, do either of you have like a weird eating, whether it's a habit or just something that we can potentially tease you till the end of the show?
I don't know if I want to.
I know that was a leading question, and no one's going to answer now because of how I worded it. All in good fun.
I put chia seeds in pretty much everything.
In everything?
Yeah, I put them in drinks. I sprinkle them on scrambled eggs. I put them in sandwiches.
Do you sprout them? Do you put them like in the liquid and they like? Are you supposed to like soak them for a little bit and it makes it better?
It depends on what you're doing. Like you can mix it with some water and use it as a substitute for oil, like when I make my banana bread and stuff like that.
Wow.
But chia seeds are so healthy for you. I like to sprinkle them and
they're superfood.
At least a couple of tablespoons a day.
Wow. What about you, Tim? Can you top chia seeds?
I can't. The biggest thing I do is I put Tabasco sauce in everything.
Everything.
It drives my wife nuts.
Let me ask you this: do you do? My dad. What I remember about Tabasco is he would have buttermilk and he would put pepper and Tabasco on the top, and that was like he loved doing that in the winter.
I haven't, but I think I might try that now.
you're just adding to my recipe book here.
Yeah. Oh, eggs and Tabasco sauce with a little bit of cheese in there. That's my breakfast of champions right there.
Nice.
Way to get the morning kicked off just right.
Exactly. I'm growing more fun. I'm a lightweight. I'm moving up slowly, but I do like the spicy. I like the stuff that sort of makes me sweat. It clears out your sinuses and not dousing yourself with water, as you know that doesn't work. I mean, that's just that just spreads the fire.
Milk helps a little bit.
Yeah, milk helps a little bit, but just that time, like you just start sweating a little bit, and then it dissipates over a couple minutes, and you'll survive. You'll survive. So pick 7 is in. So now again, we're waiting for them to cut and paste names together.
Here's the question: if it's Kevin White, do you really want to take him in your drafts? Because we know John Fox's history with not starting rookies.
Right. I mean, everyone likes to climb on me. I didn't bash. I basically said what happened with Cody Latimer. I said I was comparing him to guys that basically didn't play or minimally played as rookies, and they go, well, it's John Fox. None of this counts with Cody Latimer, blah, blah, blah. I can't believe you would do that. And I said, I'm just pointing out what happened. I'm not saying there's not exceptions to every rule. I'm just looking at trends, and they're all over me saying Latimer's great, give him every benefit of the doubt. And I'm like, Doug brings up a great point. He's got to beat out Emmanuel Sanders, right? It's going to be 2 wide receiver sets quite a bit. So you gotta move past somebody. He's not moving past Demaryius. So it may be 2016. He may be the Ladarius Green, right? Or we're going to keep waiting a little bit.
Or if you're thinking the Brandon Graham.
Right.
Yeah.
The Gene Bramble.
Does anyone else think they're
free Brandon Graham.
Does anyone else think they're leaning towards Todd Gurley because they keep showing Gale Sayers on the TV screen?
We're getting to the point, we need to start talking Todd Gurley because I know it's been a long time since we've got to talk about legitimate first-round running backs. And
I'd like to see him next to Atlanta, honestly.
Atlanta feels a little too easy because Atlanta's so bad that it almost feels frivolous for them to go a running back. What lead are they salting away with that defense?
Right.
But at least he can catch. You have that hometown connection. Anyway, so let's see. We'll see if it's Kevin White right here with the Bears coming to the podium. I need to have some dramatic music I have piped in here.
Todd Gurley, then there goes Kadeem Carey stock. Not that that's really that high anyway.
Right. He's like a early third rounder. And I'll give dramatic pause so
Kevin
Katie
White.
catches up. We got Kevin White.
Yeah.
Kevin White that we just discussed. So the Bears are building back up that offense after Brandon Marshall leaves. And let's face it, just like a dynasty team, right? You're recycling that 31, 32-year-old wide receiver. Now you're getting a young thoroughbred. You got Alshon Jeffrey in his prime. You got Martellus Bennett. I mean, if only Jay Cutler were consistent and good, right?
Earlier on Roto World, I read that there's talk that they're going to try to trade Cutler, and I don't know who would take him, but
right, the Broncos.
I couldn't even trade him on my fantasy league. I had to cut him.
And that's the reality of quarterbacks in start one leagues, right? They're just unless there's 4 or 5 of them you can get something for. The rest are like whatever.
I'd rather have Jay Cutler than Andy Dalton with the Bengals.
Yeah, I would too.
I disagree with that.
So yeah, we're seeing some nice Kevin White highlights. I mean, again, this is a guy that projects as a number one, can sort of do everything, someone you're not going to shy away from in the red zone. Basically, for fantasy owners, it's kind of everything you're looking for because you don't want a guy that's going to be yardage based between the 20s. He's someone you can throw it up, and he's someone that should see some softer coverage, at least out of the gate. I don't really overvalue situation or anything, but he's coming in a situation where Marshall trains Jeffrey. Now does Jeffrey pay it forward and train a young colt like Kevin White?
I think he's a bear, not a colt.
And lions, oh my.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, though. So how do you guys look upon, this will be more of a general question, but it applies to Kevin White, so I'll start with you, Tim. How do you look at, he had one good year, and some people completely don't look at junior college, community college type production. Were you one during this pre-draft process that said, I count that, I want to see if he dominated, which he did at a young age at that lower level as an NFL talent in the future, or were you one that you looked at strictly, it was a one-year scenario, I think he comes with more risk because he did it one time at a major college level?
I do think he has a lot of risk. I think that something that actually caught me off guard was I looked up his age, and I think going into the 2015 season, he's going to be 23 years old already.
Yep.
So he will have a full 2 years already on Amari Cooper, who I think just turns 21 when the NFL season starts. So that caught me off guard a lot. He did have an amazing season at West Virginia, and I don't take that away from it at all. But, I mean, Devin Smith had a breakout towards the end of the Ohio State season. Does that mean he's worth a top 10 pick? I don't think so. This guy definitely does have the physical profile that you want of a number one wide receiver, and the fact that he gets to learn behind Alshon Jeffrey, that got to learn behind Brandon Marshall, I think that's nothing but a win. And the fact that the Bears got to cash out of Brandon Marshall and don't have to worry about that big contract anymore, that's money in the bank right there.
I'll pass it to you in a second, Katie, but I wanted to point out, do you think this possibly creates an opportunity where, say you don't have a top 3 rookie pick, or maybe Kevin White falls to 4 if some of these running backs, I mean, there's plenty of ideal situations out there where they're going to see a nice bump in rookie drafts. Do you think Kevin White is one where he kind of has a cap ceiling in terms of maybe targets out of the gate in year one? We're all thinking about 2014 where so many receivers were startable in their first season. Amari Cooper is going to get a ton of targets in Oakland. Do you think you're going to get a secondary buy opportunity with Kevin White where he's going to have a sort of a tepid rookie year, maybe he flashes here and there, but he's not going to blow the top off sort of within the construct of that offense out of the gate? So maybe if you miss out, you get a chance here, maybe heading into his second off season, that you can just kind of buy if you missed him.
Absolutely. To steal something from Doug, his value will be artificially depressed for the year. He'll have those games where he just flashes that ability that he has, but ultimately he's probably going to cap out somewhere around 50 catches, probably 600, 650 yards, probably 4 or 5 touchdowns with Alshon on the other side of him. Realistically, that year 2, it's going to be like Alshon and Brandon Marshall all over again. You're going to have those 2 young guys that are just tearing downfield, and
They could
nobody
both go
has
for
the corners to
1,200
cover
yards,
them.
and yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Katie, so I'll open-ended to you, same sort of questions about Kevin White, and I'll add this to the mix as if you didn't have enough fuel for the fire. This question comes from Josh Bailey. He asked, in a startup league where I took Kevin White, someone just asked in the chat, who can I overpay to trade for Kevin White? And he says, who says drafting rookies doesn't pay? Exactly, right? They only escalate in value, and this is like you're getting free dividends and interest here when the NFL draft actually occurs, because almost no one's going to decrease in value.
Yeah, I'll get to that part. Remind me if I forget, but I want to go back to the first question, which is Kevin White and the 1-year domination. The way that I look at it, the junior college does count. He did dominate, and kids mature at different levels, and what I look at, and I think what a lot of the scouts look at as well, is does he have the traits, and is he coachable, is he teachable, and his physicality is something that when you've got that, the footwork and the rest of the things, stacking defenders and getting by them and going for the contested catch, I think he is definitely somebody that can fit in well in the NFL. And I think Chicago is a good team. It's a good fit for him because of Alshon and because of Martellus Bennett. And just he doesn't have to be the guy. And he's not going to be forced to be like in Carolina with Kelvin Benjamin last year. Kelvin had to step up and be the guy. So I think that he gets a little bit of insulation with that. And the second question about the secondary buy window, and I agree with Tim in that because he doesn't have to be the guy, there will be times when he's not the target or when he doesn't put up the numbers, and he may struggle and have a lull, and you might be able to catch an owner off guard. And then what was the last question that you threw out?
Let me throw this one back at you because this is from the chat from Chris. Does John Fox break his habit of not playing rookies? He said because Kevin White could be real annoying this year.
Right, and there goes another thing that can help with the secondary buy opportunity is if John Fox goes to his normal routine and doesn't play the rookie, you could have another, on into the draft next year. At this time next year, you could be buying shares of Kevin White for cheap.
But does he? I mean, how often has he had a skill position player in the top 10? I mean, it's hard to sit those guys. So
right.
That's the difference. I mean, Cody Latimer, let's not forget, he was a late second-round pick. Those aren't gimmies out of the gate, and he was raw. And Atlanta, so we projected potentially Todd Gurley. They go with another edge rusher, Vic Beasley out of Clemson, which sorely needed. I follow the Falcons closely for years, and it's like rarely, since John Abraham really, when they had Abraham and Croy Bierman was sort of developing, that was the last real time they could get to the passer with any regularity. And it's just a tough situation for the offense and the team as a whole when you consistently can't stop on third down because we know it's tough to cover in the NFL with all the rules, so you got to get to the passer. And Vic Beasley, they're taking a step in the right direction, get a local boy from Clemson.
I like him. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think it's a great pick. In fact, like you said, it's more of a need than the running back. And with the depth in this class, they can grab a running back in the second, third round and still help their team,
Yeah.
So this was a great pick.
Yeah, I don't know. The Todd Gurley storyline is nice and everything, but let's think of the big picture of NFL team building. Taking a running back, any running back in the top 10, is such a luxury that it's really your whole team's put together, and then you could still make an argument, hey, let's just go get a pass rusher, let's get another offensive lineman, let's continue building on the trenches because do you ever really have enough? And running backs, as good as they are, you can find them. You can. Right. I mean, the guys we're going to be discussing that are day 3-ers, I mean, they can play. Especially this year. I mean, there's a laundry list of guys that I think have NFL starter ability that are, easily day 3 picks, and I have zero confidence they're going to sneak into day 2.
And here's the cool thing about this too is you were just hitting on it. These guys that are drafting early, they're drafting early because they sucked last year. You know,
Most of them, yeah.
They have so many needs that it's a luxury pick to pick a guy like Gurley. The further he slides, the more he goes to a better team. That's the luxury of being a better team, is you're still going to get some good players at the end of the rounds just because everybody has so many other needs.
Yeah, and one thing that we haven't discussed yet is all this talk about feverish trades and activity. It's all, everyone's just stuck and pick their players.
Right.
So no trades and not a ton of surprises, in terms of the positions these teams are picking and just sort of the strategy they're employing. It's a lot of, hey, we're going to take the best player and combine that with one of our need areas, our 2 or 3 top needs. They always build those boards of their top needs. And even if running back was a need for the Falcons, I mean, let's face it, it's not a need like top 10. So, I mean, as much as I don't like Devonta Freeman, that's the running back position isn't going to be the reason why they don't rebound this year, because he's slogging between the tackles.
Yeah. Tim said he'd be right back. He's having some internet issues.
Okay. So now we're at the Giants, and talk about a team that likes to go hot and heavy for the pass rushers. They might feel like, already a couple off the board here, that 2 or 3 off the board, that they're not going to, maybe their guy isn't there. The Giants, let me ask you this. Do you think wide receiver is in play for the Giants with, I think they have question marks abound past Odell Beckham. What do you think?
I absolutely think that they've got question marks abound. Not sure if Cruz is going to rebound, even if he comes back.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be the Victor Salsa Cruz that we know and loved. I still question Ruben Randall. For him, it's his work ethic. I just don't see it. He doesn't fight for anything, and I definitely see that they have a need for another wide receiver.
Yeah, I agree with you that Cruz, I wouldn't be counting on anything, and Ruben Randall, I'm right there with you that he had his chance. Not a lot of times in the NFL, you don't get many opportunities of getting starting caliber targets that you can just fritter away and expect to get another chance, especially with the same team, that they're going to move on. And I kind of think of Marcus Wheaton in the same vein of, he saw a ton of snaps last year with Pittsburgh, and Martavis Bryant comes in with like half the snaps and outproduces them. And there you go. It's like, that was your chance, Marcus Wheaton. So maybe you glob on somewhere else. But same thing with Ruben Randall. You had your chance. You underwhelmed with that. And Giants here go with Eric Flowers, who all I heard was he was locked and loaded in round 1, but he had a wide range of outcomes. But the Giants lock up a grader on the offensive line.
Yeah, you see what's going on in the NFC East here.
Right.
It's a trend. It's a trend. I think this kid is a great pick for them. And again, Shane Vereen, Andre Williams, Rashad Jennings.
Yeah, let me ask you about that Giants backfield, because I almost think, Shane Vereen comes in, and a lot of people, the reaction in Dynasty was, man, Andre Williams, I guess, that's not a good sign for him. And I was like, they basically play different roles. They almost don't play the same position. I mean, Shane Vereen's never going to get more than 5 carries between the tackles any game. And Andre Williams, all you want him doing, he's basically an athletic thumper. Like, he's a really good guy with the ball in his hands. Like, he'll punish you. And I think those two are great compliments. If anything, I think both of them squeeze out Rashad Jennings.
I think so, too. And I think Andre Williams right up the middle and on goal line. Shane Vereen is the passing down back. I think Shane will get utilized a little bit more. I think the Patriots hold him back. Like you were alluding to earlier, you're never sure what game that they're going to be targeted and all of that. I think he will be a primary target for Eli, and it will help open up Odell Beckham and whatever other parts of the passing game that they've got. Larry Donnell is nothing special, but he gets it done in the middle. You know, there are certain guys in the fantasy world that don't have the great name cachet, but they get the job done. They score the points. And I'm thinking of guys like Niall Davis, Larry Donnell, Chris Hogan from Buffalo, Nate Washington. You know, they're not flashy, and they're gonna be guys you can get cheap every year. You can either
Lunch
get
pail
them,
guys.
you can get them off the waivers, or you can get them cheap, and you need 2 or 3 of them on your roster just to help give you that solid base.
Yeah. And yeah, I like what you said there because we talked earlier about, well, what's the real upside if you're drafting a guy, fostering him on the back end of your roster, and they top out as a wide receiver 3 or 4. It's like Chris Hogan was that for stretches, where we knew he was getting 4, 5, 6 targets in a game, and that can get you through bye weeks and injuries. And I love looking back at the projection model because it gives us these little indicators. Like Shane Vereen, you look at it and it's like, okay, he's an above-average receiver, not so much as a rusher, and sure enough, his NFL role has played out exactly that way. And even changing teams, we don't expect that to change. Right. And so yeah, the Giants again, so that they're bolstering their offense there, and I think they'll be an interesting team because Andre Williams, I really wish he did more because I think he's a talented runner. And he's someone, but you kind of, in that Alfred Morris, almost a poor man's Alfred Morris in the sense that if he catches literally 10 passes, I mean, he's got to run for what? 12, 1,300 for us to really care.
Right.
And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, the other side of the coin to keep a running back on the field, as you know, is their ability to in pass protection. Right. And if you do not or cannot protect the quarterback, you will not be on the field when it's passing play. It's just that simple.
It's like Mark Ingram and the Saints, right? They were telling us what they're going to do. 80% of the time they hand them the ball, and that makes you less effective as a runner because you're getting the safety coming up. You're just getting less availability to break the front seven just at the line of scrimmage because they know what's coming. They're playing the odds. And Andre Williams, I mean, he didn't get quite the Ingram treatment I felt as a rookie, but if that keeps becoming the pattern, NFL comes around real quick with that sophomore sort of regression, and they pay more attention.
Exactly, and your job is on the line if you can't improve and make yourself versatile. And that's one of the things that I like so much about Todd Gurley is his versatility. He can play anywhere, do anything. The more that you can be versatile, like a Tyler Lockett, he can return kickoffs and punts and make a decent wide receiver there for somebody. If you can earn yourself a job in a position, that's half the battle. Then the other half is keeping that job and making yourself as versatile and useful whenever the coach calls your number.
Now let's get back to wide receivers because this is I think a crucial point that look at the teams up now. We've got the Rams, pick is in. We've got the Vikings coming up at 11, the Browns at 12. This 3-team sequence here, I mean, this could be they could all be eyeing Devontae Parker, and it could just be, the Vikings are sitting there saying, man, I hope the Rams didn't just take him, but we could see 2 receivers go off the board in this 3-team sequence just because they might be dead set on a receiver and go, they're close enough, I missed out on Parker, and I'll just get the next guy.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think that this could be wide receiver alley.
And let me ask you this, are you thinking the Vikings is the best landing spot of the 3 just because they have sort of a settled quarterback position in Teddy Bridgewater?
Well, as far as for the receiver, yes.
Okay. Get in here, Tim. What are your thoughts on these next 3 teams? I mean, I would expect at least 1 receiver, and we have the potential for 2 coming off the board.
I couldn't agree more. I do think that the Vikings have a great quarterback situation, but I think that people don't realize how high they are on Charles Johnson. He started coming on last year once Teddy Bridgewater was really installed as the starter with that team, and Charles Johnson really had a chance to turn turn things on. Cleveland would be my best pick for a wide receiver here.
Just because there's
I
no
think the
competition.
Rams, no competition. The Rams have missed so many times on wide receiver, and they have so much invested in it already. I can't imagine they would take the chance to look that stupid again. And
Wow. How about this?
oh,
This is the first shocker, I
oh,
think, of the draft where
Wow.
the Rams play.
There's my man.
This is interesting. Okay, it's Todd Gurley. I mean, no one listening live. I mean, everyone's going to know the pick as I'm coming up
it's
to
all
it here.
Trey Mason.
Now, well, this is interesting because I don't know if I talked to Doug about this, but this was I had a big internal dialogue the last week or two with myself. I was looking at a lot of stuff about Trey Mason. I was writing up the Rams for Football Guys, and I thought to myself, you know what? He really did a little bit like Zach Stacy. He had sort of an average rookie year. Like he was taking the job. Like if he gets the volume this year, you're going to be happy with it. I said Benny Cunningham was doing well as a receiver. So was Zach Stacy. Like I wonder how much of a hold he has on this job. And the Rams, you know what they did right here? They just go, hey, Todd Gurley, elite talent. We're sitting at 10. How often do you get a crack at an elite player at 10 in the NFL draft? So who cares who we have? We got Todd Gurley.
Well, this is a happy
Nobody had this. This broke all those contests of people trying to get all the picks right. No one had this.
This one is a battle of mixed emotions for me.
Yeah,
I probably about a month or two ago, I sold Trey Mason in a deal where I got Teddy Bridgewater and Bishop Sankey and some pick or something. I can't remember exactly the deal, but I got rid of Mason in that one. In a recent dispersal draft, Trey Mason was one of the guys that I picked up with the intention to potentially sell, and I had an offer out to the guy for the 101 with Trey Mason and a few other pieces, and he said, let's wait till after the draft, and now he won't do it! Oh, well.
Chad, what do you think about this deal? Because one thing I had brought up a couple of times just in emailing back and forth is if Todd Gurley went to a situation where he did have a lot of competition, where he did have not an ideal situation for him to start right away, the secondary buy opportunity that I really think that he's going to have.
Yeah, I think Gurley's interesting because this could go one of two ways. And I'll be very interested to see the rookie drafts that start in the next 24 to 48 hours that, this gives them a chance to sort of red shirt-ish Todd Gurley, really make sure he's right early part of the season. But for Mason, because Mason is a perfectly serviceable back, I think he's got a lot of talent, especially for where he was drafted last year. But more of a two-down guy. Gurley, of course, gives you that flexibility, that plug him in, as we just mentioned with Andre Williams, not giving anything away from a schematic standpoint. And this is just, for Mason, again, I think actually for Mason this creates a buying opportunity just because I put it out on Twitter. I'll be very interested to see what these early responses come back on what his value is. I'm sure I'm going to get 50 jokes about how he's worth nothing. Someone actually said a lot less than 10 minutes ago, a lot till Todd Gurley proves he's healthy. Someone said a fourth-round pick or 19 cents. Dog feces, right? That's always a classic response.
Right.
So anyway, the point is, right now, I wonder if you could trade literally a third-round rookie pick for Trey Mason, and that you might be able to start in the whole first month of the season with starter touches. And let's not remember, it's about like the Kristen Michael philosophy of just buy good players. If you can roster 7 running backs, why would you not? If Trey Mason literally costs that amount, I would love him as my running back 6 or 7.
Well,
love it.
That's the thing. This is dynasty, so dynasty is forever, right? So
yeah.
if you've got the bench, he's going to have an opportunity somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta, again, if you're the goods, there's always room in the NFL, right, to move your way around to another team. And running back, let's face it, Trent Richardson is disproving that to a large degree, but changing teams doesn't have to be a bad thing. get the ball and run, right? I always say it's the most innate position, which is why, at least for me, it's kind of easy to scout them. You just kind of watch, and you can kind of see who has it and who doesn't, who has the juju, if you will. Let me pass this question to you, Tim. This guy points out, Chris has a question. He says, Todd, well, not really a question. Todd Gurley might make it now to 105. I would be so happy. It sounds like he is 105. What sort of would be the best case scenario, do you think, for folks that like Todd Gurley? They don't have 101 or 102. How often do you think he makes it? Like, do you think some people legitimately discount him to the point that he's fallen to 103, 104, 105?
I do 100%.
Wow.
Not everyone is learning Dynasty with the UTH philosophy or the things that you guys are saying every week. One exercise I actually started doing within the last 2 months of my leagues is I started asking everyone what they listened to or what they read, and it really shocked me how few
Do they answer
people
you?
were. Yeah, oh yeah, 100%.
Oh, okay.
And I was surprised that they answered me because it kind of let me take a look at their cheat sheets and
What
things like
rankings
that.
they use, right?
Exactly. But the number of people that came back and said they listened to UTH or they did DLF or Dynasty Nerds or whatever, it was really surprising to see how many people didn't do anything.
Right. They did the gut, right? The good old-fashioned gut.
They look at the fantasy magazines that come out once a year. Oh, this guy's good at Dynasty, so
they finish 8th every year because they go with their gut and the magazine for redraft.
Absolutely, and they don't like rookie picks, so it's amazing to see.
They're so risky. They bust all the time. I don't know if you know this, Tim. Like, all the time.
But I could honestly see him starting to fall below Melvin Gordon if he gets a good landing spot. We already know Amari Cooper and Kevin White have 2 very good landing spots. All it's going to take, whoever the Cowboys pick, if they get a running back somewhere in here, I could honestly see that person being inflated to the point where he goes up to 104 or 105 and keeps pushing Todd Gurley down, which is a great buy opportunity. I will also say, no matter what league I'm in with KDA, I'm sure she'll be willing to jump in front of me no matter where I'm at if Todd Gurley's on the board.
I'll get some more Twitter reactions in here. Someone saying a late second for Trey Mason. Poor Zach Stacy never saw this coming. I mean, how many people now have jumped Zach Stacy on that depth chart? Welcome to Gio Bernard land, Mr. Mason. Which, I mean, I kind of think Gio Bernard is a nice trendy bounce back guy this year because he looked pretty darn good to me. Filling in, we got an IDP pick here with Trey Waynes for Minnesota, so bolstering that secondary. And I think that's a quality pick. So we don't get Devontae Parker. So now Parker's on the board, and we're at 12. Let's finish up Minnesota here. Katie, what do you think about so they pick up Mike Wallace and Charles Johnson. What do you think about that offense as a whole? Peterson still is sort of a question mark. I kind of expect him to be there and playing, and Jerick McKinnon waiting in the wings.
Right. Yeah, I think that definitely Adrian is going to stay there. His contract's just too much. I doubt he's just going to sit at home or retire. This definitely addresses a need, and this guy is an incredible athlete. So, as I said, I'm not a big scouter of safeties and cornerbacks until after the draft because of landing spot, but
situation and scheme and
exactly.
Right. It's so fickle.
Yep. But Tim was mentioning as far as who the Cowboys are going to take for running back, and I will quote Jared Jones, by hook or by crook, they are going to get a defensive player in the first round, and they may not even get a running back in this draft.
Yeah, let me ask this because I can't remember if it was on a recent podcast or in an article buried somewhere, but I brought up the idea of what if Dallas does wait? What if the running back they take is in, and this might be the best move with their great offensive line that probably is going to make anyone, 4 or 5 a carry? Anyone. I mean, they made. I don't even like Joseph Randle all that much, and he looked like a game breaker in his relief duty. They were probably just sick of trying to tackle DeMarco Murray 20 times in the game. But what do you think about them waiting until round 3 or even round 4 to just take a guy that's good enough. What would sort of the floor be of the Dallas drafted running back if it was someone that fell in that range?
I think that there is so much depth at running back, and that with their offensive line that they've got, I think you could get like a Matt Jones or a Javorius Allen,
David Cobb.
Malcolm
Brown.
Yeah.
Don't tease me. Don't you guys tease me if Malcolm Brown goes there.
No, I mean, my two favorite teams are the Cowboys and the Patriots, and they're playing each other October 11th in Dallas this year. So I'm definitely going. In fact, I've got my alarm set for early tomorrow morning. Tickets go on sale. So I really don't care what running back they take. I do think that it'll probably jump them at least one full round in the rookie draft, maybe even more.
I say no matter what, their ADP is going to be 108 to 110.
You think
at the absolute minimum for running back X, even if they take two in this draft and one's like deep and buried in day 3, just the first one they take, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go top 5, even if it's a guy in round 3 and it's someone that we weren't over the moon about as a general dynasty community prior to the draft.
That's a pretty big statement.
I mean, what if it's Cameron Artis-Payne? I mean, there's so many backs in this mid-range that Jeremy Langford. I mean, Doug would go nuts if Jeremy Langford was the guy that went to Dallas, because I've been banging on him like all offseason. So
I can tell you this, that if it is somebody like Cameron Artis-Payne, I'm passing. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to take him. I'd rather take somebody in that 1.07, 1.08, like T.J. Yeldon or Brashad Perryman, or just. Or
Kibby, would you be more excited for Joseph Randle then? Would you be looking as a buy opportunity for him since he did look so good last year, and you don't like that specific running back that's going there?
Randall is an off-the-field issue, and I'm not a big fan of his, so I wouldn't buy him anywhere.
I'll just say this: he's a day 3 pick with off-the-field issues. How many chances do those guys get? I mean, they're on almost a year-to-year situation on any NFL depth chart. So it's just you're on the fringe of the NFL at any given moment, just as a day 3 guy, until you totally prove yourself, have a breakout season. And then they're still going to wait until the last moment to pay you. So they're gonna burn you and use you up. This question is from Josh, a little bit of rookie draft strategy. So let's give them some help here. We're already kind of getting those early pieces in place. I have 102 and 104 in a league. I'm hoping Gurley goes 1 so I can get Cooper at 2. He said, but if Cooper goes 1, how do you play it? He's talking about Gurley and White now. He'd love to get both of them. Sort of, what would you be rooting for at the top of his rookie draft?
That's a tough spot to be in. What did he say? He said he really wanted Cooper?
Well, yeah, he would love to get Cooper. He would like Gurley to go 1. We got Danny Shelton now going defensive tackle. So Parker, again, we kind of thought this was another spot. I totally ruined it talking at 10 how wide receivers were to go. We're 0 for 3 now. And they're officially sliding now. Sliding, relatively speaking. We've already had 2 of them. So back to this rookie question. So if you had 2 and 4, he obviously would love to get a Cooper and White or Gurley White kind of combination. What would you be looking to happen in front of you at 1 to give you the best odds at 2 and 4?
I do sit in one of my dynasty leagues. In fact, the one that Tim is in with me, and Daniel Simpkins owns the 1.01 because I traded it to him. Yeah. And I've got the 102 and the 104, and I know he's going Gurley.
What did he give up? What did he give up for 101?
Jordan Matthews, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, the 1.04, and rounder. Yes.
Well, you know what? You know he's not writing for UTH anymore. You can't make that move. Jeez, come on.
And did you get the 4th rounder? Yeah.
I think I remember hearing about that on Twitter too. Like that sounds really familiar, and that's I love the 101. But man, you're stealing stealing
I
from
had to
babies
think
with.
a lot to get rid of Gurley because
Yeah.
that's about the only league I've sold the 1.01 in. But anyway, I sit at the 102 and the 104. I don't want to give away too much of my hand because Tim is listening, and so are the others.
So what should Josh Bailey do? Not you, not you.
Yeah.
We're talking about Josh Bailey.
Right. I think that there's still a good chance that Gurley's going to go 1, and if Gurley doesn't go 1, if Cooper goes 1,
At 2, do you not mess around, take Gurley, and you're just
I think you don't mess around. You take Gurley, and if White goes
3.
then you've got Devontae Parker at 4.
Well, I always think this way. You're going to get the next running back. That, let's face it, he's going to go to a good situation, right? I mean, is it going to be San Diego later in this round? Is it going to be, there's talk about I think Houston actually is a kind of a hidden landing spot behind Arian Foster, and I mean he's getting close to the end. But there's other landing spots out there. Atlanta, again, I'm very interested to see who they take in the first 3-4 rounds. I think it's almost a given. So. I just kind of think you're going to have leverage at 104 that there's going to be some running back that someone gets hot and heavy for, especially if it's a start 2 league. So you're going to have flexibility to deal down and potentially get the same kind of player you were looking at 4 if you didn't want that situational running back.
True. And I think, again, if it goes Cooper first, you take best player available, and I still think it's Gurley. You've got to go Gurley and then take your chances at who's at 104. You could even still trade the 104 and get some because there's a lot 104 to 108.
Yeah, you can maybe get 108 to 110 and get a future first out of it to boot. And let me ask you this, because you seem, I mean, you're speaking the right way in the sense of you're addressing Gurley's talent. You really haven't mentioned Trey Mason and, what if this is a committee and stuff that probably is going to be in the heads of some dynasty owners. And just, I mean, do you have any sort of straightforward statement of this is why you just draft the best players and just know that the depth chart will shake out? I mean, it's that simple.
It's that simple because Gurley is the kind of talent where if he stays healthy, Trey Mason is going to lose out long term. If he doesn't stay healthy, then they've hedged their bets. They still have a quality guy in Mason and Benny Cunningham, to help out with the receiving side of it. I think it's a great pick for the Rams, and I think it's a great fit for Gurley. And I think that Mason will still get his chances. He'll still have his value, and if he gets traded or if he, when his contract is up and he goes to another team, he's still going to be right in his prime and have another opportunity himself.
Let me ask you this, Tim. Where would you have Gurley on your, you're drafting today, you're kind of just putting together a sheet of dynasty running backs, thinking long term. Where would Gurley slot for you in how you team build?
He would still honestly be somewhere in the top 5 for me.
Okay.
Between age, he's on a team that has a very good offensive line. They have good pieces along the offensive line there. I am a little concerned about Nick Foles as a quarterback there and the ability to stretch the field, and we'll see what he can do with those wide receivers and if they can finally take a step forward now that they've changed offensive coordinators this year. But I still think that he has such great talent and such great ability that he could really be top 5 long term.
All right, let's. We got Tim. We have 2 Tims on the line, so we're gonna go with. We're gonna call him ER Tim.
The professor.
Yeah, the professor. We're gonna get him back in here, and I'm having a hard time with this, muting and unmuting people, and it's all over the place. So I'm gonna try to get Tim in here at some juncture. I don't even know what I'm doing. This is why it's a 2-man operation. You can't handle more than 2 people. So I don't know, Tim. I'm trying to get you in here to get your thoughts on how this. We're almost halfway through the first round now. How it's been unraveling for you, distracting you from your hopefully smooth running health situation you got going on. God, how do I get you on here? This is painful. This is what I edit out of the weekly show. You're seeing it right here. All this junk. Yeah, see, this is bad. I mute you and then I can't get you back. All right, so this is what we call vamping. So we're at 13 now with the Saints.
I'm going to see Devontae Parker here.
Okay, and this for the Saints, this is probably close to ideal, right? I mean, they have a hole at wide receiver. They got Colston on his last leg. They got Kenny Stills out of town. It's Brandon Cooks or bust. They don't even have Jimmy Graham. I mean, you got to project what Cooks for 180 targets until otherwise, right? And which we love, but I mean, they got to get somebody else in here. And I don't know. They probably thought there was a 20% shot they get a look at Parker here. I would imagine if they were talking yesterday between themselves. All right, we got you back, Tim. Let's get you in here.
Yep.
So we need to get your Todd Gurley reaction. We've had quite a few skill position players off the board. What is your?
Well, that was the most shocking one to me because I'm just Trey Mason owners, man, making just a sadness.
Yeah. You know, everyone check in with your buddy, right? Call your Trey Mason friends.
Yeah, make sure they're all right.
Yeah, make sure they're not out on a bridge somewhere.
Those your Marquise Wilson owners. You know, with Kevin White landing there. I like both those landing spots, though, for those two players. I think those are great. So,
and the Saints do not go Parker. We got Parker still on the board because they go offensive line, which they bolster it with the Jimmy Graham deal at center, and now they tackle Andres Pete, who. Again, a wide range, but most people expected him to go in the top 15 or 20 of this draft, and he does just that to New Orleans.
Yeah, one thing I would like to say is a couple months ago you actually had Matt Williamson on the podcast, and he was talking about you can really start to tell what a team's doing and how they start to show their hand with different moves that they make in the offseason. Trading away trading away Jimmy Graham for the offensive lineman, going for an offensive lineman here in the first round, and signing C.J. Spiller, you can tell they want to start moving towards that run game. It's not going to be all on Ingram's shoulders, but you have to start looking at it. They want to start taking the ball out of Drew Brees' hands, and they want to really start running the ball and killing that clock.
Well, and they want to protect. I mean, Brees, let's face it, a lot of times he was having to move a lot in the pocket, and while his mobility is good, I mean, he's lethal when he can just read and distribute like a point guard. And just that vintage Saints offense, we didn't really get to see that last year. And if he gets a little more protection, we could potentially start seeing Brandon Cooks more down the field, and I'm sure they'll take some sort of pass catcher later on, if not on day 1 and day 2. Certainly by day 3, they're going to address the passing game in some capacity. I want to get back to you, Tim. Tim. Well, so get back to Gurley. What's your reaction in terms of where would he slot on your rookie board? And just as a Mason owner, I mean, obviously he's a tough sell and almost an obvious hold based on a talent perspective with the torpedo job you just got.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that spot for Gurley. I think that, I mean, for me, I still have Amari Cooper, number 1, but I think that locks in Gurley as the number 2. He already was there for me.
Well, there's no bad spot for Todd Gurley, right?
Right.
It's bad for everyone else that he goes.
The Browns. That's the one spot I fear for anyone's fantasy success.
Yeah. Okay. And just checking in on some of the other picks. Other than Gurley, do you have any strong thoughts on the landing spots? Sort of those impressions, as Matt Williamson says, they're telling us all the smoke screens are gone. Here's what we think of their team.
Yeah, and you see, I think it happens in the fantasy community too. We focus on all these offensive players and where they're going to go, and then you see them they kind of fall a little bit farther, like Parker, still waiting for him, Cooper, I like the spot for Cooper. He's going to see 1 million targets in that offense with a developing David Carr, and I like the spot for Kevin White. They got their new Brandon Marshall. They still have the Twin Towers there. Can go, both get, catch the ball, catching the ball in the red zone. And I agree with what Tim Torch was saying about that offensive lineman going to the Saints with Mark Ingram, just another sign that they're going to pound the ball down the throats of other teams. this year. So yeah, those are the things that really kind of stuck out to me.
Let's go around. Let's start with you, Katie. Who do you think? We've been talking about Devontae Parker a lot. It seems like the last 3, 4, 5 picks now. Who do you think is the next? I mean, are we getting close to a Melvin Gordon sighting? I know we're getting close to that Houston, San Diego zone that a lot of people thought might be the first running back off the board overall. Well, we already got Gurley gone. And just what do you think in terms of the landscape on the next skill position guy we see go? And do you think now Gurley goes at so early, does this open the door for potentially a third running back in round 1?
I heard or read, and I think it was on Roto World, that San Francisco was interested in Gurley, which
How likely was that?
That
Right.
was out of the blue, and if they were interested in Gurley, does that mean that they're interested in Gordon? I don't know. I also read that Cleveland was interested in Gordon. I don't know exactly why they would be with the,
Right.
Crowell and West there, but I think Miami would be a good fit for Devontae Parker. I think that Kansas City would be a good fit for him. I wouldn't want to have him there. That's, like the black hole of wide receivers. But Houston, running back San Diego, certainly I think they're holding their breath wanting Gordon. And yeah, I think that it could open up T.J. Yeldon sighting somewhere towards the end of the round, or maybe Tevin Coleman, Amir Abdullah, somebody towards the end of the first. And I also think that towards the end of the first, with the 31st pick, that the Saints might pick up their wide receiver there.
Yeah, I mean, they could be looking at that 1-2 turn that they think, hey, even if there's 4 wide receivers off the board, the guy we like, we expect him to be there. Tim, what do you think about the landing spot here? Miami has been rumored, hey, Lamar Miller owners were nervous. I mean, going into this draft because they thought a running back could be in play here. They obviously could continue to build around Ryan Tannehill, who could be on the verge of a breakout with a little help. I think he's looked good on tape, maybe better than the numbers so far in his NFL career. Do you think they could be in line to take a pass catcher here?
Yeah, from what I understood, Devontae Parker was somebody that they were looking hard at. He and Gurley. I never quite bought the Gurley rumor, but I guess I bought it enough that I was trying to shop Lamar Miller most of this week, who I have. I also have Kenny Stills on that same team, so was kind of hoping they wouldn't go offensive player here, but I really think they probably go with somebody like Devontae Parker, get that big outside kind of threat that Kenny Stills isn't quite there that for them. That's kind of my feeling on that.
Yeah, this trade market must really be close to the vest because we still haven't seen one. I mean, this just proves once again that you going into the draft, you don't know really what's going to happen. Every year, every subset of players is its own animal, creates their own storylines because some it's all trades. Some years now we're getting nothing, and a lot of sort of what we expected with. Now I think this second half of the first round, as we kind of get into it, it's no holds barred. I mean, all the reports we've seen are there are 10 to 15 first round grades, sort of consensus out there, and then it's open season. I mean, we might see guys that have been projected largely as mid to late second round picks. We might see 5 of them go in round 1, just the way I think a lot of teams' boards are going to look.
Yeah, you make an interesting point. I mean, I forget what announcer was saying it earlier today, but that they were saying everything's out on the table this year and could be a really interesting draft. And yeah, like you said, it's, was that all smoke screen? It's all gone kind of according to the numbers here.
I wanted to ask you, Katie, about Devontae Parker specifically. Is his he checks out with the metrics, and I had some questions, and on the player spotlight on UTH, I expressed those concerns on the tape side of things. Did everything match up for you? Were you just like he checks the box in both capacities, or are you kind of stuck in the middle in terms of him being a pure target player or just someone that kind of blends in for you?
In my Devi draft, I had the 1.02 and that would have been Parker. That was who it would have been projected because Gurley and Cooper and Gordon and all those guys were already off the board. So I knew Kevin White was going to go first, and I looked and I said, man, I'm not a big Devontae Parker fan. I just, there's something about him, and I don't even know exactly quite what, but there's something holding me back from him. So I traded back, got an extra second-round pick, and moved down to the 105. So I wanted to hit the running back alley, and I think that I probably will with that. There's still some good wide receivers that are going to be on the board at that point. It gives me a little more flexibility, and I'm not forced into picking somebody that I'm just not crazy about. And again, I don't even know what it is, Chad, but
Yeah, I have that same feeling. Give a little, and I didn't even know this. I mean, I brought this discussion up before Devontae Parker was the pick for Miami. So again, surrounding Ryan Tannehill with some weapons, and I think Jordan Cameron gets lost a little bit as a key addition, someone that's one of the more athletic players at their position, kind of misused, underutilized there in Cleveland. Finally gets a legit shot with a real quarterback, and anyway, so Devontae Parker, right? I have that same quality of he checks out. I think he's a little thin. I wish he was like 5, 10 pounds heavier, but and not really a physical player. Someone that I don't think likes the contested catches. So he's kind of the anti-Kevin White, where a little more dynamic, can run by you a little more, even though you might not know that from the test, the combine results. But just there's something about Parker. I mean, I know he's been hyper productive in pretty much any way you slice and dice his production in college on a per game basis. Did it really young. I mean, he broke out at 18 years old. So someone that's been earmarked for a while as being an NFL guy. And who knows? I mean, his resume would have been a lot better if just kind of had those concerns coming into the league. But someone that, yeah, I mean, again, he checks all the boxes, but just someone that, not quite sure he's going to be that legit number one in the NFL that many are probably projecting upon him now.
And that's the same way that I feel about Melvin Gordon, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
I watched his film from last year, and I even asked you this question on Twitter, and you didn't know the answer, but is there any kind of correlation between how many runs outside that a running back has in college versus how many runs up the middle versus their NFL production and NFL career? Like, are the guys that pounded up the middle more apt to become the better NFL running backs?
I would think yes.
Always kicking it outside. And
yeah.
Last year, that was Melvin Gordon in a nutshell. Yes, he improved this year, and no question about it. He's a big, strong kid, but there's just something about him and his game that I'm not all that keen on either.
Yeah, I do. With running backs, I see these now. Whether it's they had a dominating game where they ran for 200 yards. I mean, Gordon had a ton of those, or if it's a highlight reel, it's like I'll put it on, and when they run for, the unencumbered around the perimeter, and Gordon had a ton of those, and then they're just off to the races, and then you got some secondary guy that runs a 4.65 that can't get the angle on him. What did that show me? It didn't show me anything, and I feel like it almost wastes tape. It almost wastes the internet. I mean, I know there's limitless space, but it didn't show us anything. And it's like some people go and it's like, wow, look at him, look at all these big plays, and it's like, how often are you going to get a toss sweep and just there's no one there in the NFL? Like, most of the DBs can come up and tackle you. I mean, this is not a bunch of Deion Sanders. I mean, this is so. Right, and Greg Cosell brings up the point with Tevin Coleman. That straight line speed is great, but how often is there a defensive breakdown to the point where, like Chris Johnson in his game-breaking year, you can just go, and you're going to get a
last season on that one play where he got outside and then was gone for 80 yards.
Yeah, and I don't think that's sort of the base point for judging an NFL running back, whether they're a prospect or coming into the league, where you go. I mean, C.J. Spiller can break plenty of big runs, but it's like...
Trade! We have our first trade, folks. I just broke the screen.
You did.
Sorry.
I'm trying to catch up with what happened. I was like doing my little diatribe thing there.
San Francisco traded to San Diego, and San Diego selected Melvin Gordon.
Wow. There it is. That's right. You did your hockey announcer thing.
Yeah.
So we
Go
get a
now.
trade up for a running back. That's the Melvin. I think that's the Todd Gurley pick at play because they're like, oh no, the Chargers are like, oh no, we might not. Who were they? So I guess they were worried about Houston. I mean, they basically jumped ahead of them, and I mean, yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, let's see what the asking price was, what they
Right. What
ultimately
was the
paid
deal?
to
How
move
much?
up 2 spots in the mid first. I mean, that's
Yeah, they had it up there, but I couldn't see it on the 10-inch TV I'm watching in the hospital.
And I
Disappointing.
was too busy talking, and I didn't notice it
yeah.
on my 53-inch TV. Sorry.
It's like I look left to right, and all I see is TV still. So this goes right into the. I mean, this was expected for Gordon. It was a lot of, well, he's going to be. Most of the talk was he's going to be the first running back off the board until the very last, until that Gurley had that last medical check. That's when people started to remember, oh yeah, he's sort of a really good running back, and he probably deserves to go ahead of Gordon. So he was projected to go in this range. We projected San Diego, right? I mean, that was going to be the first team that goes running back. So basically, everything happened as projected with Gurley, San Diego, and in the range we suspected. Obviously, for those that were, I mean, Brandon Oliver is nice and everything. I think this actually is a sneaky opportunity for one of my guys, Danny Woodhead, because Woodhead can play. He's a sneaky PPR guy. And what's the concern with Gordon? I don't know how many passes he's going to catch. So you still could get a guy in there that's not named Melvin Gordon that's catching 40 passes.
And it's not just how many catches is he going to make, but can he pass block? And I know he has the willing ability to, but that's the big question mark on a lot of these running backs is, are they going to be able to pass protect?
Yep.
Yeah. Tim, what are your thoughts on just this fit with San Diego, and now that, I mean, it seems like we glossed over the Phillip Rivers potential trade that just never really, it kind of fizzled out even prior to today. So now you've got an offense with Keenan Allen, you've got, they're showing it now. I mean, you got Malcolm Floyd, who's always good when he's healthy, but is he running out of time now? He's on the wrong side of 30. Antonio Gates, Ladarius Green, if they ever figure out that he's really kind of a big receiver. But Melvin Gordon in the mix as well. I'll be very interested to see the pass pro, like you mentioned, in that transition, that tough transition as a rookie NFL runner in the pass blocking and the tough game of blitz pickup.
And I think on the podcast you were talking about running backs sliding boards, up the rookie draft boards, and I think that this is a situation where everybody knew whoever went to the Chargers was going to be probably their featured guy. So then when it's a big talent like Gordon, I think people are going to start pushing him up above where I would put him. But I've got the 103 in one league, and I'm hoping now that maybe somebody will go after Gordon at 2 and leave me with Cooper or something like that. But and I think it's interesting what you said about Woodhead too, because if you think about it, I mean, Matthews wasn't catching many balls there either, so and that's what gave Woodhead that opportunity. So is this a more talented Matthews, without not made of glass also, but I think he fits well in there. I think that's going to be a good offense. I got Stevie Johnson in there.
And that's another underrated. Stevie Johnson as a secondary option. Yeah. I think that's a real underrated move that happened. I mean, I liked him in San Francisco, sort of. If everyone leaves, I mean, Steve Johnson could get back to his glory days of Buffalo in terms of volume and relevance for us fantasy owners, and it didn't work out. But he went to a pretty advantageous spot with Phillip Rivers, who just kind of churns out efficiency even out of guys like Eddie Royal. Just as we move off of San Diego, I do want to shout out to Danny Woodhead, who has one of the top projection model scores of all time. You talk about a guy coming from a small school that just eye-popping production, and someone, even for 197 pounds, pretty darn good athleticism. I mean, people don't remember, he ran a 4.38 with one of the best 10-yard splits known to man. I mean, so this is a guy that Bill Belichick knew what he was getting himself into, and I'm surprised. I mean, he's a New England guy through and through that I can't believe New England got rid of Danny Woodhead and any capacity. So, wow, we've got some more guys on here. Let's get them in here. We got Daniel coming in as promised, wearing the jersey. It's probably Marcus Mariota already. So, as projected, he's in here. Hopefully, he gives us a little IDP perspective. We were trying to stay afloat here, but weigh in on your Tennessee Titans here and just give us a lay of the land with some of these IDP landing spots.
Oh my goodness, I'm actually really disappointed in the Titans pick. I just don't think he's a scheme fit for what we do.
Suicide watch. You gotta do the bridge watch. Are you okay?
Definitely.
Are you thinking of hurting yourself?
Well, good thing I'm a therapist also, so I know the hotlines for all that.
You're talking yourself down already.
Right. If I get
You're
those
asking yourself the questions. All right, so breakdown. So they take Mariota, and you said that's not what you were looking for. What were you looking for, and now how do you think they sort of navigate this? Does Mettenberger start the year, and how do they kind of use kid gloves with Mariota transitioning to the NFL?
I really would have liked to see them trade the pick, honestly. We just had so many holes and team needs to fill, and really feel like they could have done a lot better in that regard. As far as who starts, I really think that they're going to go with Mariota day one, unfortunately. Wow. Yeah, they've actually they had a little bit of a presser tonight, and I was trying to pay attention to that as well as the draft, and it looks like they said in the presser that they'll start him day one, so that's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
Wow. I'll get back to you here in a second. We got the Texans on the clock, and they got sniped a little bit. We thought this might be a pick with Melvin Gordon at running back, and now 2 running backs already off the board, and they go with a talented cornerback here with Kevin Johnson, Wake Forest. So anyway, so getting back to, as you were saying, so if Mariota starts week 1, is this a good thing for his progression, or is this something that as a Titans follower that you just rather him get maybe a sneakier start mid-season and maybe Mettenberger can keep the ship afloat early on?
That's what I would like to do, is see Mettenberger actually start out the year and let Mariota sit behind him and learn. Although, again, there's a difference in their style of play, so there's going to be only so much that I think he can learn. But, no, I really think that they're going to roll him out there, and I think it's going to be bad for them. They've had a lot of offensive line woes, and really think that he's going to get hit a lot, just like Mettenberger was hit a lot. Pretty much anybody who started for the Titans this past year was hit a lot. So really see that being what happens.
So some IDP love. Give us maybe a guy that you like where they landed. You think they're going to be a little underrated in terms of their. As we know, you can't sit on IDPs, right? You got to get some production out of them. Otherwise, they're not really worth investing in out of the gate. You just snipe them off the waiver wire when other guys get tired and cut them. So what have been maybe the highlights and lowlights for you with these early pass rushers? We haven't seen linebackers, the true linebackers, go off the board yet. Just sort of the lay of the land here with some nuggets.
Well, really did like Danny Shelton going to the Browns. Of course, that was kind of expected. That's where most people were mocking him. And DT required leagues, I think that's going to be a really good fit for him, and he'll cause a lot of disruption. Really liked what the Jags did as well with their pick.
They got their pass rusher, right?
Yeah,
I mean, we were projecting pass rusher for months on end, and I know Amari Cooper got a little love, like, hey, maybe they just go best player available, but stuck to their guns, and basically they had their chance to get their best player at 3, right, with 2 quarterbacks coming off the board.
Right. They did. They got their Leo there, and I think they're going to be happy with that. I really love what the Jets did. Yeah, they definitely.
Well, they got the guy that was potentially the number 2 or number 3 player off the board at 6, which is just for their. I mean, I don't even know if they expected that to be an option.
I don't think they did. I think they were just as surprised as the rest of us that he was sitting there at 6. So, really, it's going to give them a lot of versatility in what they do. They have Richardson and Wilkerson there already, and to add Leonard Williams to that is going to just be amazing.
If you can't be a great offense, I mean, if you can get to the quarterback, you can win some games, and potentially sneaking into the playoffs, even with gasp Geno Smith or Ryan's Fitzmagic, just trying not to mess everything up on the offensive side of the ball. Let me ask you this, because what I love linebackers. I mean, that's my thing. I want traditional tackle, hogging. Where do you think the first one? Do you think a linebacker comes off the board in round 1? Is it Kendricks? Like, who should and what range should we have an eye out for in the second half of the first round?
Yeah, actually, that's who I project to go first off the board. I think we're going to see Kendricks come off the board, and love, love, love some Kendricks. Extremely good linebacker, and I really think that we could see him go to the Packers. That's
Yeah,
where
I've seen
I'm
Green
kind
Bay
of
a lot.
projecting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think
Yeah,
he could go before that? Do you think someone kind of sees that and either, I don't know, trades above that 30 overall, or just we see someone earlier in the 20s?
It's a possibility. I really think, though, that you're going to start to see an offensive, guard, offensive tackle run.
Yeah.
We've started to kind of see that happen earlier in the draft. There were some taken, but I really do think it's going to either be towards the back end of the first round or the early second that you'll start to see some linebackers come off.
Yeah, just that positional value, and I mean, you don't have a quote-unquote stud this year that sort of warrants that top 15, top 20 projection. And
Right.
Here, San Francisco, they moved down, and they still got. I mean, I saw Eric Armstead. I mean, pretty much a beast. He was projected to the 49ers a lot that I saw, and they get their guy. I saw that they picked up a couple mid-round picks to move down and let a running back go off the board that they probably had zero interest in, and that's the perfect trade. I mean, for dynasty owners, I mean, if you can move down in your rookie draft, get the same guy, pick up something for the future, a little something more. So what do you think of Armstead here with a 49ers defense that's just been kind of hemorrhaging that overt talent they've had, and they've been stockpiling that now they're going to desperately need?
Armstead wasn't my favorite. I can definitely see the pick. I kind of like Malcolm Brown a little bit better, to be honest. I think he would have probably been a little bit better fit there. Brown, I really liked because he was very good at playing the pass and the run, and also just kind of like Leonard Williams, had to be double teamed a whole lot to stop him. But Armstead's not a terrible pick, and I think with it being the 49ers, they'll get the most out of him. They've always been a very good defensive team, and can usually get a lot out of their defensive players. Okay,
and just again, I'm more of an IDP noob, and I'm sure most of the people listening are not all the way up on it. Is Armstead more of a tweener, or is he someone that's more run stuffer or pass rusher?
He's more of a pass rusher, actually.
Okay.
And yeah, I wouldn't say he's a tweener. He's definitely gonna probably play a 3-down role, but he'll definitely be starting. But yeah.
Okay. And how are you reacting? Going back to the offensive side of the ball, what was your reaction to the Gurley pick? Were you heavily betting on Trey Mason? And something that we were discussing is none of us really expected Devontae Parker to kind of fall in the lap of Miami like that, where a lot of times he was projected in the top 10 or 12.
Oh, well, actually, Katie could tell you. We play in a league together, and I have Mason. And
you had Mason. He sort of disintegrated in front of you there.
Yeah, my heart sank with that pick. I actually plan in that league, and I probably shouldn't tell Katie this, but I think she already knows. I plan on taking Gurley, so I'll have his backup. But
I already said that anyway earlier.
Yeah, she already said that. She said she took you to the cleaners with the trade, and now you have to take Gurley because that's the only way you kind of justify things.
Pretty much.
Well, now you're gonna have your bases covered because, as we know, I mean, you shouldn't throw Mason away because he's talented. I mean, and just because the situation changed doesn't mean he doesn't get an opportunity, and he can kind of run with it if something were to happen to Gurley, or if suddenly Mason changes teams once his rookie deal's up.
Yeah,
And did you
absolutely.
say on the podcast as far as the talented handcuff? Now you've got the talented handcuff, Dan.
Yeah. And I did a quick Twitter poll just so you know what you're getting into with being a Mason owner. I have them in a couple spots, and I should have listened to my Spidey senses the last couple weeks and dealt them away because I just had some feeling. I was like, you know what? He's not that as great as a lot of people think he is. But that apparently he's worth lint or third round rookie picks. Sorry, lint or third round rookie picks. Which in an IDP league, that's not that bad. But I mean, all signs point to just holding on, putting them back on the depth chart, moving them down from running back 1 or 2 on your team back to like 5 or 6, and just stockpiling that talent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So everyone in that league, Katie included, go offer some third round picks for Trey Mason, and Daniel, don't accept those. The league will be a blast. 20 offers going out, and none of them are close.
Not the first time you've been on both sides of a trade, right,
Yeah,
Chad?
it happens more and more. I'll just like, that looks familiar, and I'll be like, oh yeah. I'll look back in my DMs from like earlier that day, and the other guy was pestering me about the deal. And hey, again, I can give impartial advice on both sides, so it's not. I yet have tried to screw somebody, just like start playing reindeer games with people's rookie trade negotiations. I mean, let's keep this on the up and up.
You don't always get the whole story though behind it, and that's kind of funny too. Like, oh, they forgot to say, well, it's so and so and so and so plus a second and a third. They leave that part out. So if you have the whole thing, you might answer differently as to whether or not it's even.
Right, and the big thing, I'll say this, for folks that seek advice, a lot of times a follow-up question does occur because unless it's a straight value perspective, a lot of times you include a quarterback, I'm going to ask about the format. If it's a running back deal and it's kind of close, I'll ask about starting requirements. I mean, and folks, a common question I get is, man, you don't have overall rankings. And guess what? Most people don't, and the reason for it is because it's just so difficult. Like that position-to-position value shifts so much based on the league. I mean, just if it's super flex, we know how much that shifts quarterback. If it's tight end premium, those are the obvious ones. But even one running back versus 2 mandatory, how many wide receivers can you start, how many flexes, it just shifts things to where I'm going to change my answer. I mean, if you just kind of asked me, I'm just going to generally answer it. But just if you start answering questions for people on Twitter or otherwise, I mean, I'm sure you can speak to it. It's difficult in terms of just the format changes the equation.
They leave out that it's tight end premium, for example. It makes a huge difference. I'm in that Debbie draft. We're doing our rookie draft right now, and 2 days ago, Kevin White was taken with the 101, and the guy on the 102, which is the guy that I had traded with, I had that pick initially, and he said he wanted to wait until the night of the draft to make his pick, and yes, sure enough, he just took Devontae Parker. So, in 3 more picks, I'll be on the clock.
So we get another IDP here with the Chiefs going Marcus Peters. So the defensive backs are flying off the board. And Tim, you can, Daniel, you can address this with more IDPs. Obviously, defensive backs are tough to kind of invest in unless they're going to get that rookie treatment with getting peppered with targets, or if it's cornerback mandatory. But what are your thoughts in terms of what Katie was talking about with just IDP specifically? I mean, the format is king in terms of shaping the entire scope of player value.
Right. And specifically to the Peters pick, I know that he has a lot of character concerns, and kind of surprised to see the Chiefs take him where they did. Was projecting Peters to actually maybe fall into the later first or the early second. But yeah, it actually is something that I try to touch on when I'm talking to people about IDP, is that you really don't want to take your corners very early. Corner is one of those positions that is very expendable. So if you play in a cornerback required league, it's maybe a little bit different. But if you're playing in like a DB required league where you can start corners or safeties, safeties tend to be more the type of player that you want to take. And also just realize that there's not much value there unless you own an elite one. So you really don't want to expend, premium picks on that asset.
I think we had a discussion on Twitter one time just where I couldn't believe it my first couple years in an IDP league where you can just get these cornerbacks with great matchups off the waiver wire throughout the entire year. And just, right, unless you have a guy that you have an affinity for that you're holding one or two of those, the rest you can just stream them all the way. And I imagine that transitions right over to rookie drafts where it's just like, why bother? I mean, let these depth charts shake out. Let so you know exactly what you're getting into in terms of their role in a defense, how much they're going to be targeted early on, and then just find a decent guy off the waiver wire if those two circumstances collide early in the season.
Are we frozen?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was a question. You there, Daniel?
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Oh,
I lost connection for a moment.
Oh, okay. I was just speaking about the fact that, I mean, don't invest in a lot of these cornerbacks out of the gate with rookie picks. You might as well wait for the situation to shift out and know early on in the year that they're going to have advantageous matchups. They're going to be across from someone who's going to shift targets their direction and produce those tackle numbers. And just don't bother out of the gate. Just kind of get them on the rebound if it feels right in season.
Right, and you can find good situations throughout the season. You can even play the matchups from week to week. If you know what's going on situationally, what team they're going to be playing and what, who they're going to be matched up on, you can kind of get an idea of what their numbers might look like. So if you look at situation from week to week, you can even stream them from week to week. I've seen that done, and I've done it myself, and it works really well. Like I said, just don't invest premium picks.
And Eric Coleman did a great piece about speaking to just the year-to-year turnover is so high on the defensive side of the ball because you're getting so many scheme changes that really shape the player value and production that you're going to have folks that are hanging on, even in dynasty leagues, to these guys that were productive and in a different situation last year, and it really has no relevance when we're talking about the season in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got the...
Sorry, Chad.
Yeah, go ahead.
That's another sign that I look at when I'm looking at the other dynasty owners is if they keep the same cornerbacks and safeties year in and year out and don't even stream, then I know that they're not going to be actively seeking trades. They're not going to be actively looking at the waiver wire, and it's like a big neon sign saying, pick me, pick me.
Right. Yeah, so we got pick 19 with the Browns, and they are in. So they already have one pick under their belt, and this is one you would think that they'd be leaning towards offense. They didn't go to the wide receiver position. Now they're in a little bit of a different situation with Parker off the board. Is this where we potentially see Brashad Perriman? You mentioned Nelson Aguilar could be in play, Jalen Strong. I think those are the three names that most would project being in play for the closing 12 picks or so here.
Isn't this the spot where they take a lousy quarterback?
Yeah, I mean, this would be the logical spot for the third quarterback to come off the board. This is where they go rogue and go, Bryce Petty or something.
But isn't 19 like the nexus of quarterback picks? Oh no, it was 22nd.
Yeah, 22.
Brady Quinn, Johnny Manziel. This is close. This is as close as they can come. So maybe like Shane Carden here.
Yeah. Let me ask you this: I like Isaiah Crowell. I like him as a pure runner. I think he's got some of that Marshawn Lynch to his game, but really that entire offense. I don't want anything to do. I took Dwayne Bowe in the last round of a startup just because I thought he's going to get out of Kansas City, right? And he goes to Cleveland. So it's sort of a, you avoid getting punched in the face and then you get punched in the stomach situation where, yeah, that didn't work out too well, but a lot of, round 20 picks are a waste. So, took a shot and tried to flip them maybe for a second round pick if things go well, but probably not going to go well. But let's bring in IDP as well. Daniel, is there any? Give us some nuggets in terms of where should we be going on this Cleveland offense as a whole, and on the defensive side of the ball for Dynasty.
Need a cough drop there, Chad?
You have no idea.
More that green drink.
So what you're wanting is some like an IDP pick that they might take here.
Well, just in general, I mean, we got to find value in Cleveland somewhere, right? And they take a center, so I mean, this goes with Isaiah Crowell, I guess, where we know they want to run the ball. I mean, maybe they'll have 500 running back carries on the year. That's if they stay in some games. But just value mining in general, Crowell is sort of the pricey option. Terrence West, not so much. But just as a whole, I mean, where can Dynasty League owners go to maybe squeeze some juice out of this rock?
In Cleveland?
Yeah. I know it's tough. It's tough to project that, but, I mean, what? The defense is going to be on the field, right?
Yes, they definitely will be out of the field, or on the field, rather. Definitely want linebackers in Cleveland because of that. They'll be on the field so much. They're going to rack up the tackles, and so that's what you really want to focus on there. Also, you really could look at their defensive backs. They'll get a lot of tackles too, and that's where you really want to look in terms of the IDP side of the ball. On offense, good luck.
Good luck. The hope is that Crowell gets like 250 carries and 8 to 10 touchdowns. I think would be the best upside play of all the options, because that passing game looks pretty brutal, and people talk about Travis Benjamin and stuff. I'm just like rolling eyes and stop wasting roster spots. We're quickly to pick 20 here. I mean, well, quickly. I mean, we've just been chatting away. Katie's been carrying us here. We're to pick 20. We got the Eagles, so the trade up didn't happen. This mammoth move to get Mariota.
My last hope is gone.
This could be a situation where, again, I'll keep bringing up wide receiver, because those are probably, we got Max Williams in the mix potentially here in the last 12 picks, but also 2 to 3 wide receivers probably going to come off the board. Katie, what do you think here in terms of potentially getting this dynamic offense a new toy?
I think the new toy that would fit nicely here would be the Brashard Perriman pick. He could be keeping Matthews on the opposite
possession role.
Yeah, exactly, because Matthews isn't going to be the kind of guy that's going to be your wide receiver one. He's not going to be that deep downfield threat. He's fast, but he's not quick. He's strong, and I love the guy, but he's not a wide receiver one. I think Brashad Perriman could be that downfield threat, spread the offense. You know, I hope that they use Ertz better than they did last year. Hopefully his blocking is better, but that's just another key. It's not just the running backs and the transition. It's the tight end really has to pick up the blitz. They got to pick up the blocking, and if they can't, no matter how athletic and gifted they are at catching the ball, they won't be on the field. And Brent Selleck will steal his thunder again. So I think Perriman would be a good fit for this team.
I wanted to ask you and drill down on Jordan Matthews. I know we started the show talking about Jameis Winston and the off-the-field stuff, and you want to talk about a squeaky clean guy, it's Jordan Matthews. And unfortunately, I mean, he checks out sort of by the drill numbers, but I don't know about you, he never really seemed that dynamic, athletic as the combine sort of indicated, and he got boosted up a little over a year ago.
Right. There are some guys, and I think Jordan Matthews is one of those guys, and he was that way at Vanderbilt. He's going to be productive because of his work ethic. Yeah. He's going to outwork. He may not be as athletic and flashy as other people, and he's not going to be your dominant guy that's going to be able to carry the team. Like, he's not a Jeremy Maclin, and nor do you want him to be. But you want to get somebody that's going to go downfield and give him the middle and give him the end zone, because he's certainly physical enough. And like I said, he is a very hardworking guy, and he's just going to outwork them.
Yeah, and I think that we kind of think of the NFL Combine as this is a test. I mean, this is one of your first NFL exams, and Matthews was going to be studying hard. And I kind of wonder, some of these guys that look athletic on tape and they show up with just sort of these middling results or underwhelming, you just kind of wonder, how much did you really prep for it specifically? Because we know, as we've seen with Kevin White running a really fast time, and it doesn't really show on tape, but maybe that speaks to him being a hard worker. Same thing with Jordan Matthews, where they can really focus on whatever in front of them and really take this as something to achieve and do your best. Like something small, like, hey, I'm going to be a high pick, but this is part of the process, and I do it well. And it's unfortunate that just these little factors they don't really line up with all. It's not easy. They don't spoon feed us where someone does great and they check the box on the field athletically. They're a great person and they land in a great situation. I mean, Brandon Cooks checks a lot of those boxes, but it's
right.
Like rarely do you get the trifecta of just we don't have many concerns.
Jordan Matthews is a grinder. That's how I'd like to.
Yeah.
He's different size and frame wise as a Julian Edelman, but he's got that same kind of hard nose. I'm going to get this done. Nelson Aguilar, told you.
There it is. They go to the well, and right, you were saying.
I didn't think he'd go here, but I knew he'd go before Strong.
I wasn't going to believe it until it happened, and it happened. He goes as the number 4 receiver off the board at 20 overall to the Eagles, and I'm glad I made my quick UTH to go about Nelson Aguilar going in round 1, because now I don't have to redo it. It's good to go, and you take a leap of faith when you do sort of draft positional based stuff before the draft, but hey, you got to get the content out there so you're ready. And they're showing some highlights. Man, he is stick thin. He reminds. Are all USC guys this way? I'm hoping Juju Smith sort of for Devi people. I mean, hopefully he changes the course as he's a thicker sort of guy. But it seems like you got Marquise Lee, you got Nelson Aguilar. They're just sort of kind of wiry, smaller guys, not overly productive for what you'd expect. What do you think about this pick, Daniel? I mean, this is an offense we're excited about. And I don't know about you. I'm not an Aguilar guy. So again, this just totally blows things up in my face. Where it's like, now what do I do?
I'm not either. I really don't understand it. I'm really baffled by it.
And so now you're going to get two. Let's face. I mean, some people will disagree with this statement, but you're going to get Aguilar and Matthews, basically two complementary guys at the NFL level. So are the Eagles just going to kind of scheme it up? And they can kind of produce it out of thin air. But who's going to draw the coverage? Who's going to – they're going over the depth. I mean, Riley Cooper, he's sort of a one-year guy. He had his day in the sun, and it's kind of behind him. That's sort of how it works for guys drafted in his position. And they did well once, and they typically don't string it together. So I really like DeMarco Murray, but I think sort of the rest of that Eagles offense is a big question mark.
As a Cowboy fan, I love it. I'm loving this pick, and I'm also loving this pick because what it's going to do is drive Aguilar's stock up in rookie drafts, and I'm not a big believer in him, and so I might be able to get somebody that I like better, just because, like you mentioned, I think in the podcast earlier, now people won't sleep on him.
Well, you're right. We have 6 wide receivers and running backs off the board now, and I would think Aguilar now is firmly in at least, the top 10. I mean, a lot of people had him at the back end of the first round of rookie drafts before, and that was just kind of thinking he had a chance to go round 1, liking, him being a more refined option out of the draft class, and especially the ones going in the first couple rounds. I mean, it's hard to keep him out of the top 10 when you're factoring in draft position and landing spot, regardless of sort of what you think. I mean, I'm not taking him in the top 10. I'll say that right now. I mean, someone else will be higher, I guarantee, in the scope of the drafters in all my leagues than Aguilar. And I wouldn't be surprised if he does grace 105, 106 in a number of leagues.
His ADP right now is 15.
Well, not anymore.
Right.
That's not current. But yeah,
But that's
exactly.
the good news. The good news is he's going to move up into
He's a
the
big
first
riser.
round, and he's going to move somebody down that we like better.
Yep. What are your thoughts, Dan?
Well, I'm actually just thinking about this in terms of our league, Katie. We have so many UTHers in our league. I don't think that they're going to bite, honestly.
Yeah, but
So-
I'm in 15 other leagues, Dan. So
He's got the portfolio going.
yeah,
That's true. That's
I
true.
got a
That
little
that
mix
is
of
quite a
everything.
haul.
I've got some IDP, I've got some Debbie, I've got some deep. I just did a dispersal draft of a 53-man roster with 8 taxi squad. It's the deepest one, and I absolutely love it.
And they weren't. Well, you were drafting against air.
Well, I love the deepness of it, but yeah, I love my team too. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because in the league that I'm in with Dan, out of 12 people, 6 are UTH. So the other 6, it'll be an interesting test of their mettle.
Good luck.
I think between Dan and I, we own more than half the first round.
Well, yeah. Well, and you said test their mettle in terms of what, staying in the league?
No, as well, yeah, but I mean as far as like the Aguilar and like the landmine picks,
Yeah.
like.
Can you resist? Can you
Right.
resist the urge? Yeah, so we got some input from Twitter here. I know it's not going to happen, but would love to see Max Williams coming to Steelers, kind of backfilling the Heath Miller there, and
That would be
yeah,
good.
Max Williams now into
I
play.
like that fit.
Yeah.
Or even if he falls further to New Orleans or Baltimore, could be in play for him.
Yeah, let me ask this because I think Doug and I talked about it on the show this week that Josh Hill Jimmy Graham leaves and it's like we love the athleticism of Josh Hill, but how often does someone that far down the radar go into a year without significant competition or at least a high draft pick of someone that's going to be a real danger to them getting a hold on the job? And so I think the Saints are pretty likely in the first 3 rounds to grab a tight end that at least creates a significant doubt long term.
Yeah, definitely think that that's a possibility with that pick, especially since they already went defense for the night.
And look at this, going back to the Matt Williamson argument of what are the teams telling us. The Bengals go back to the well with offensive line. I'm not going to try to. Is this Ubui? I think I've heard his name said enough that I got close enough not to embarrass myself. But the point is, I mean, they get Jeremy Hill as a power option, and now they grab another offensive lineman. This is basically, to me, it's more of a statement about, yeah, we're going away from that build around Andy Dalton thing we tried with Gio and Tyler Eifert. I mean, I know he got derailed a little bit by injury, but just that air raid offense, I think they're going back to their roots and let's run the ball and try to milk some leads and hey, let's screw it up in the playoffs, but let's at least get there.
Well, I think that they had more sustained success when they went with that approach last year.
Yeah.
When they took it out of Andy Dalton's hands. But you're right, when they do get into the playoffs and they're in more passing situations where they're not necessarily controlling the game, then they're kind of screwed.
Sure enough, I just got the rejection letter on that Trey Mason, the one that I had offered prior to the draft, and he said, let's wait until the draft.
Man, he had you on the hook.
Well, I knew he was going to reject it. It was kind of
okay.
fun.
He was just
back. Hey, Tim, ER.
back. ER Tim, he's recovering.
I'm back.
He's back. Let's get you weighing in on some of the last picks.
I was really surprised by that Aguilar pick. Not that Philly took him, just that he went ahead of some of these other receivers.
Yeah.
I don't know. What did you guys say about that?
Yeah, I mean, he's more of the technician, and based on who they sort of had, the Macklin sort of role, or, I mean, they kind of have that with Jordan Matthews, and now what we said is they have two kind of complementary receivers in an NFL sense, and basically scheme it up, and who knows how that's going to work in terms of someone taking the lead and really being, realizing their upside for us fantasy owners.
Yeah.
Steelers take 1-3.
What's up, guys?
We got Doug coming in. He's on satellite because we're getting
I'm on satellite.
We're getting eerily close to the Lions pick. He said he would at least check in amidst his homer bar for the Lions. And I let me ask you this, Doug, right away.
Are you sure you want to ask this question? That's all I want to know. Are you sure you want to ask this question?
You don't even know what I'm going to ask.
I know exactly what you're going to ask, and the answer is no. I'm furious.
He's furious already about the pick. They're taking Max Williams and 2 straight first-round tight ends, and that's it. The world is imploding. Yeah, basically we would just want the ambiance for what the reaction in the bar is going to be when the Lions. They can't make a good pick, right? They're going to be pissed no matter what.
Basically, it's coming down to this point where a lot of the Lions here are thinking we're going to be taking Malcolm Brown out of Texas.
Yeah.
And no one's really happy about it, to be honest, because we had our shot to pick up Sue's option, Fairley's option. We chose to forego those options. And then we also chose to select Eric Ebron last year and not select Aaron Donald. So if we knew we were going to make those type of moves, why not set us up for the year in advance by selecting a guy like Aaron Donald? So there's a lot of pessimism here out in Royal Oak, Michigan right now.
And a lot of the talk was that you take Malcolm Brown, how much of a representation of losing Sue and Fairley is that? And you're just trying to kind of claw your way back. It's sort of a Band-Aid to a giant gaping flood. And right, if they had not messed it up last year, taking Donald or something, you have a lot more flexibility with this upcoming pick that you don't really feel like you have to patch it up right now.
Well, I feel like Nada is a fine pickup for us because I feel like, no, he's not as good as Sue, but yes, he's better than Fairley, so he's somewhere in the middle. But then again, we don't have that guy that's playing next to Nada that's going to take him to the next level and allow him to create penetration within the offensive line. Yes, we have some talented defensive ends, but is that going to be enough to allow us to sustain the type of success that we saw last year? And I'm just not sure it is.
Let's get you in here, Doug, on the Aguilar pick to Philadelphia, and specifically the Gurley pick to St. Louis. What were your kind of reactions and just the water cooler talk in there in Detroit Nation?
Well, luckily for me, since I'm in Royal Oak right now, this is a really busy town, and as soon as the Todd Gurley pick happened, I decided that I was going to go play in traffic. And luckily for me, I dodged it. I came out of it okay.
Played Frogger.
But basically, that pick just blew up a lot of the hopes that I had for Trey Mason. I don't understand the pick. When you have Trey Mason, Zach Stacy, and Benny Cunningham, how can a team like the Rams, who's deficient at almost every position, go ahead, except for the defensive side? They're a good defensive team. But when Devontae Parker's sitting there,
no to Parker, right?
And Brian Quick's basically your default wide receiver one. How do you take a running back when Trey Mason showed all the signs that he could be a very good running back last season? So that pick absolutely floored me. And that, I don't know, man, like, I considered that one of the safest spots this offseason to where a running back would not be drafted under any circumstances. And lo and behold, Jeff Fisher goes ahead and says, you know what? Let's just go ahead and do this. We had a guy like Todd Gurley in the past, Steven Jackson, that worked out pretty well for us. Why don't we go ahead and try to replicate that?
Did it work out well for them?
It did in a sense. I mean, they never won a championship out of it, but they were a playoff team for many years, and they were a contender for quite some time. And as far as the Aguilar pick, I mean, this is just Chip Kelly being Chip Kelly to me. Like, was that guy ever going to draft a guy that he didn't play against in the Pac-10? I don't think so.
Right. Well, how good of this is for UTH drafters, because we were mentioning Aguilar now locked into top 10, if not a little higher, and someone that just one more body that's going to fall to you potentially in the mid first to late first round of just someone that you're looking for instead.
I think this does solidify the fact that he's going to be like a top 7 pick for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not willing to risk that kind of money or that kind of stake in Aguilar, but I would be willing to invest in him in the later half of the first round, like 110, 111, 112, somewhere in that range. But I'm just not really willing to do it any earlier than that. And I will say that Aguilar is my favorite USC wide receiver that's come out in the last 7 or 8 years or
That
so.
says
I
nothing,
like it.
no.
That
That
really
says
doesn't say a
nothing.
ton. You know, it doesn't say a ton, but
Says
I
less
like
than
him more
nothing.
than Lee, and I liked him more than Dwayne Jarrett and Steve Smith and some of these other guys that came out of USC.
Wow, going out on a limb there.
Yeah, going out on a limb. Yeah.
Hey, Doug, we have a trade. Denver is now on the clock. And
I saw that.
trade. First trade, right?
Yeah,
No, second,
first trade.
second deal. We got Melvin Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. The fall of Devontae Parker a little bit, and I think we discussed it yesterday on the show, did we not, about Miami going to the well with a pass catcher. So now we get your boy Parker and your boy Tannehill doing some nice things down in South Beach.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Devontae Parker just kind of
Is he like 1.3, 104 to you?
He's 104 to me, locked and loaded at
All
this
right.
point. You know what I mean? I think that also Gordon went into a wonderful situation. I think that, honestly, I would say that Gurley's landing spot actually hurt his value a little bit more than it helped it. Because I think he's going to be in a bit of a timeshare. He's not going to just take that job away from Trey Mason and just run with it, I don't think. Trey Mason's a talented running back.
No, I agree, but you don't
know what
take
I mean?
a guy at 10 overall and go,
You don't.
hey, you're a timeshare guy.
You don't, but at the same time, Jeff Fisher is not a guy that just kind of hands someone the reins and says, you know what, take it. You have to earn everything that you get with Jeff Fisher, and I think that Trey Mason did that last year by sitting out basically the first 5 games because he couldn't pass block, kind of got that down to a sense. It's not like he's perfect at it or anything like that, but I think he got it down to the point where he got out there, beat out Zach Stacy for the job, beat out Benny Cunningham for the job, who, you know, they are not the most talented backs in the world, but Trey Mason is definitely a talented back. And, you know, if I'm the St. Louis Rams, here's what I'm thinking if I take that Gurley pick, right? I'm thinking to myself, I got Trey Mason just sitting on my bench now, right? He's providing basically nothing for me because if he's going to be a guy that handles the ball 5, 7 times a game, Zach Stacy or Benny Cunningham can do that for me, and they can perform just fine. So I'd be shopping Trey Mason really hard during this entire draft to see what I can get for him. Like, if I could recoup my value with a third-round pick out of Trey Mason to a team that was running back needy, like, say, the Atlanta Falcons or something like that, I go ahead and make that move every single time, and that's exactly what I'd be looking to do if I was the GM of the St. Louis Rams.
Now, put on your GM hat for your hometown Lions. So they trade back 5 spots. They pick up a couple fifth-round picks. They get Manny Ramirez. Is that right? Manny Ramirez? The old Cleveland power hitter? Okay, anyway.
Actually, Manny Ramirez was a guy that we originally drafted out of Texas Tech. He actually set the collegiate record for bench presses when he was at Texas Tech. I believe he bench pressed somewhere around like 620 pounds coming out of college. So he was their starting center, if I'm not mistaken, for Denver. So he was a pretty good player.
Yeah, and so they trade back, and I'm sure you probably like the move, pick up some more picks, and the Broncos trade up for the big question mark of late with sort of his off-the-field transgressions. We got Shane Ray, so they pick up a pass rusher who arguably is more talented than 23 overall innately, but falls down the board a little bit. So what do you think about recouping that now? Who would the Lions be targeting, you think, moving down now near 30?
There's so many talented guys left, really. I'm kind of thinking at this point that Perriman is the guy that they're looking at, to be honest with you.
Why'd you trade back then? I don't know if he makes it.
Well, I mean, I don't even think they really got fair value for trading back in the first place. 2 fifth-round picks and a starting center doesn't equal a 5-spot jump in the NFL draft this year. So, as the Lions do, they sold themselves short again.
Well, that's what I mean. That's basically what the when San Diego traded up. That's basically what they had to give, right? A couple mid-round picks for 2 spots.
Was that all they moved? Oh, they only moved up 2 spots from
Yeah.
17 to
They
15,
they
though,
jumped
right?
Houston, which we talked about as that's kind of a sneaky running back spot. I mean, we thought that might be the first running back off the board, but turns out that was the crucial point in the round for the second one. A question,
Yeah.
Doug, I've been weighing in with everybody is, so now with 2 running backs off the board relatively early, do you think that another one could squeeze in here? I mean, heck, as early as Arizona at 24. I don't know how many other spots, potentially maybe the Ravens as well, or the Panthers. So we really have like a 3-pick zone here. Do you think another running back could go here?
I think that Tevin Coleman is definitely in play for the Lions. I know for a fact that they sent their running backs coach out to his pro day, met with him privately, and normally teams do not do that unless they're really, really interested in the player. They don't send positional coaches out. So I think Tevin Coleman's in play here for the Lions, potentially the Ravens as well. I can't really see any other running backs really sneaking in, especially even a Jai after these knee issues and all these different reports saying he's got all this stuff going on with him. So I don't think that he's really in play here. I think Coleman's kind of the wild card because of that 4.340 that he ran at his pro day.
Okay, and for wide receivers, are you on board that it's gonna probably be Perriman and maybe Strong, and Beckham's kind of a wild card here to close round 1?
I think Dorsett's also a wild card.
Okay.
Can't count him out.
What did we get for us? Get this year, get it next year.
So I haven't gotten a chance to gauge any of anybody else's reactions to what's happened on the draft. I know I'm just kind of sitting here spouting off at the mouth. And
you're the featured guest. You get in here and pick 20, right. And you just.
But like when this happened, when Gurley went to the Rams, I mean, what was the reaction here? I mean, I'm sure I'm going to hear it tomorrow when you release the show, but what was the reaction from the UTH crew? Because I know a lot of us have a lot of shares of Trey Mason in a bunch of different leagues that we have. So was it just like, it's like, kill me now, God? Or was it just like
that was the Twitter reaction. That was the Twitter reaction. It was like, what's he worth? He's worth belly button length and stuff like that. And I mean, the consensus though came in like, yeah, maybe he's worth a late second or third round pick type thing. And we came to the consensus, hey, he's too talented to freaking trade. I mean, you got to hold him. He could be a long-term hold, needing that situational change. But heck, it's no guarantee that maybe they slow play Gurley, maybe even put him on the pup, and Mason has some real value in September with 15, 20 touches a game. So, I mean, again, it's tough nuggets, and you don't really expect that to happen. Again, that's not even on our radar for a running back to go this early. And again, no one's really wavered. It sounds like you're wavering on Gurley a little bit just because of the Mason factor, but no one in the room really said he slides much past 102 from a just take the talent perspective in rookie drafts.
I just think that Trey Mason's too talented to just sit him there on the bench and just kind of watch him rot.
Why do you go mid to late third then?
There was when Trey Mason came out, there were a lot of reports about the fact that he had an injured wrist and that there was a chance that he was going to have surgery on it. Does anybody remember those reports besides me?
It would help your argument a lot if someone remembered, but we don't.
Okay, well, they're true. That part I can. There was they thought he had a fracture in his wrist, and that did cause his draft stock to slide some. So I think that contribute to some of the reasons why Mason fell to the third round last year to the Rams. Otherwise, I think that he's probably a mid to late second pick in normal circumstances with a clean health.
So if Gurley starts to slide, so give me your early board. I mean, Cooper was there at 1 for you. I'm assuming Cooper's still there.
Yep.
Is Kevin White your easy number 2 going there to Chicago? Or
yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And is Gurley now 3, or is he even lower potentially?
He's 3 still. I can't put him ahead of Gordon.
Yeah.
Why
can't do that.
Why is there?
But it looks like we got one of our staff members in the hospital right now. Is this correct?
Yes, that is correct. We've got ER Tim, as we've affectionately named him, because we've had 2 Tims on at various points. Come on, what's a host to do? You got to come up with cute nicknames.
Well, what's he in for, and what's the sentence?
Exactly. I mean, talk about we talk about showing up hurt, not 100% to the weekly show. I mean, look at this. I mean, he's coming to a hangout, and he's like,
Got nothing else to do.
yeah. I was at the ER once, and trust me, I wish there was a hangout in an NFL draft going on. Like,
right.
Saving grace.
Well, it looks like the Arizona's picks in. Let's see if they shock the world and go with a running back not named Andre Ellington here.
Well, should we tease it? Because the picks have been out on my screen for like 10 minutes. You guys are you're out in the boonies, guys.
I guess.
They go tackle.
I mean, we're still on dial-up out here.
Yeah, yeah, you're roaming. Your TV connection is roaming.
I wanted to mention too that I am here with UTA's friend Mike Beckley at Mike Beckley NFL. If you guys know him on Twitter.
Yeah.
And
shameless
you know what?
Plug.
While he's here, I'm going to get Mike on the horn so he can kind of divulge himself a little bit so that he can talk about some of these picks so that I'm not just spouting verbal diarrhea all over the place.
Yeah, let's get Mike in here because
come on.
He's the super flex guy. So
Mike's the super flex guy. So let's talk about some quarterbacks.
Everyone's got to get some niche. We got Daniel in here talking IDP,
right,
and learning us up. Let's get Mike in here talking super flex and where he's going with Mariota, who, wow, I mean, what happened there?
Right. All right, I'm going to get the headset over to Mike here. We're going to do a little transfer, and you're going to
keep angling us up at the light. That's tremendous.
Mike's a bit of a
camera work.
Mike gets around a little bit, in case you didn't know. He writes for UTH, little DLF, little Dynasty Nerds. Mike is. Since I've known Mike, he's been the kind of guy, he doesn't like to commit. You know what I mean?
He's a serial writer.
He's got serious commitment issues, so he just kind of goes wherever he's wanted for the
flavor
time being.
of the season. He's like, dabble a little bit over here. We're going to see a Rotoviz article sometime in May, and just be all over the place.
Right. All right, here he is.
All right. We got QB Premium Extraordinaire coming in, Mike Beckley. Oh, that's so polite of you not to have us staring up at the sun for 3 hours.
Yeah, sorry about that.
People putting their Google Hangout screens on block. So we had some people weigh in, but give us the scoop in your Superflex board. We get the chalk pick of Winston going 101, but what happened with Mariota? No trade, and now we got Mettenberger potentially being a placeholder early on in the season.
Yeah. Well, I think there's two quarterbacks and nobody else. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, you're good.
Yeah. I'm a late round quarterback snob, like you know. I think you have Mariota, Winston, and then I don't care about anybody else. I like Grayson. I like Petty, he's okay. Hundley could get some fantasy points, but after that, I don't care about anybody but the first two.
And where are the first two slotting on your rookie board?
I think a lot of it depends on need. If you have two stud quarterbacks, I don't know that you need Jameis Winston, but I do like him. And then Mariota in Tennessee, I don't think he's a good fit with Ken Wisenhunt. I don't think the weapons are very good for his skill set. So I don't know. I think he's probably outside my top 6.
Wow.
And then I'm thinking in the 7, 8, 9 range, I like Mariota just because of rushing yards. You know, you kind of have that Konami code. A little bit extra rushing production. But other than that, I think it's a pretty bad fit for him with Ken Wisenhunt. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
Can you give us just a little perspective on I always say play the format, and if it's quarterback premium, you can't have too many quarterbacks, especially ones that are either earmarked for a starting role like Mariota at some point, or guys that already have the lead role. So does that fit into kind of your strategy of the format where you just said, I'm not a big fan of the fit with Mariota, but, mid-first, late-first, of course I would take him.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you look at a 10-team league, there's not that many teams that are going to need a quarterback. And then if you look at a 12-team league, there might be a couple. You look at a 14-team, there's probably some teams that need a quarterback. So I think you look at the league size a little bit and then decide how many teams need Mariota, and then he's got a little bit more trade capital than he's going to have in a 10-team league where there's only 3-4 teams that need a QB2.
Yeah, and I always feel like in season, when you get the bye weeks and a few injuries spattered around, it's like they're worth gold. with just when you got guys that are going to throw 30 passes a week that you can trade away when you have four good ones. I mean, that's really a power position to where the talents that you maybe were not able to get in your rookie draft, suddenly they're attainable just because you have bodies at quarterback.
Yep, I'm with you on that. You got to look at league format to decide if how much value he has, really. But running quarterbacks, they have the highest ceiling, so he's going to put up some big numbers wherever he's at, but I just don't feel like the fit is very good. I'm not excited about Mariota.
And Winston, what do you
Yeah.
think about the fit where we kind of knew this was coming, but with those big weapons he has sort of out of the gate, the way he can throw from the pocket, make those contested throws. So do you like that better, and what do you see sort of for his upside maybe in his first couple of years in the NFL?
Oh, yeah, I like Winston a lot. The off-the-field issues, I think they did enough of a background check that if they're willing to take him number 1 overall, then I'm willing to rank him pretty high in fantasy. But he's got Mike Evans, a double-digit touchdown scorer. He's got ASJ who could get that. Vincent Jackson could get that. Yeah, I like Winston quite a bit, and he's in my top 3 easily.
Okay, so top 3, and do you project him as having like a mid quarterback 1 sort of ceiling, maybe in his second season?
Yeah, I could get behind that. Top 12 for sure.
I mean, he's not going to have the rushing. I mean, that's not really. He's going to be a traditional pocket passer. I mean, maybe he runs for 100 yards, 150.
Yeah, I think that 25 touchdowns is probably his floor. I'm not sure he's ever going to be putting up Peyton Manning numbers, but you don't need that,
Right. Well, and with Peyton Manning declining, right? I mean, we don't need to replace him. It's going to be a new landscape at quarterback coming up with sort of those fading stars.
Right.
Let's bring Daniel in here. We got an IDP pick with Shaq Thompson to Carolina at 125 here. What's the fit here with another edge player coming off the board for IDPers?
Really like the fit, actually. I've not been a huge Shaq Thompson fan myself, but with Carolina and their defensive setup, I really think that that's a great pick for them. They could actually use the edge rusher, so feel like it's a good fit.
Okay, cool. Katie, let's get you back in here with just sort of overall landscape of the last few picks. We haven't had a whole lot of action. We're still waiting for Perriman to come off the board. So now that we're in our last 6-8 picks of the first round, what are you kind of looking for? Is there any sweet spots that, if this player comes off the board to this situation, they potentially are in my, breaking the seal on the top 5 or so when we've already had more than that off the board for skill positions?
Well, for skill positions, I think that Baltimore, it just makes sense that they're going to take a wide receiver. I've been saying that Perriman's going to come off the board. Man, if he doesn't here, maybe Devin Smith, Jalen Strong, but I think Perriman would be a better fit for Baltimore. One comment on Mike, Mariota's going to be running, as Daniel pointed out, with no offensive line. He's going to be running for his life. And then Dallas is coming up next. They're gonna go defense, and I'm afraid that they're going to take Randy Gregory. And it's one thing to smoke pot before your combine, but it's another thing to lie about it. I mean, man up, dude, own it. And it's not good character, and it may not make a hill of beans difference. He's also a little bit undersized. He could use 20, 30 pounds, but definitely he is a first-round, early-round talent, and I know that Dallas could use him. There's no question. So I think that would end up being a good fit for him.
Well, and Katie, they are really good at helping those character players out, so they'll probably get the most out of him and be able to control him as they've done with Dez.
Yeah, that's true. As long as there's no videotape evidence, then yeah, it's all game.
I haven't had the volume up, but someone said that Randy Gregory was going to be one of those drinking game type players where they were going to mention him from like pick 8 or something on until he gets drafted, because he just has such a wide range, and you just look at the overt talent, and he kind of warrants selection along the way, but yet all these question marks off the field that just makes a lot of teams, rightfully so, kind of squeamish with a first-round pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be the same feeling that I had last year when I was doing the, avoid Johnny Manziel at all costs, please. I wouldn't feel horrible about the Randy Gregory pick, but I just,
Yeah.
it is what it is. He's definitely very talented.
We'll weigh in on a similar vein on the offensive side of the ball. Dorial Green-Beckham, what are your thoughts about a team, even if it's Baltimore right here at 26, going his direction in sort of that more boom-bust in terms of who knows what's going to happen, whether it's on the field or off?
Right. Well, I forgot about Dorial Green-Beckham, and I like your wife's comment that I heard on the podcast, and I can't think of a better fit than Baltimore, actually, if you want to go with a troublemaker kid. But yeah, I mean, he would definitely be somebody Baltimore could use as a tool, and hopefully for his case, I hope he can stay clean. You never wish anybody any ill. I think he's got a world of talent. I really would like to see him turn himself around and keep it that way.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised with on the field and watching him on tape. It was just he didn't really. It almost seemed like watching a baby deer. Like at times, it's like I don't know how to move with this frame and this level of athleticism. I don't really know how to function as a smooth wide receiver. You just wonder if he puts it all together.
Right.
And Baltimore does go wide receiver here with Brashad Perriman. So I mean, they could have went a number of directions, and Perriman was kind of that trendy guy to potentially go top 15, top 20 by a lot of the projections. Well, he slides to 26, and Baltimore kind of has this knack of grabbing maybe more talent than their draft position should warrant in the first round in recent drafts, and it's just so Perriman was a late riser. I mean, not many in January and February were on to him, and people talk about the drops, but you can kind of see those flashes of big, fluid mover that he's got. You could argue as much upside as anyone in this draft class, even though he comes with more risk. Let's bring Doug back in with you were kind of on Perriman a lot this offseason, and now he lands in a place he should get a lot of early touches.
Absolutely. And here's the thing with him going to Baltimore. Ozzie Newsome is one of the absolute best GMs in the entire NFL. And if there's anyone's opinion that I trust, it's his. He's going to spend a first-round pick on Brashard Perriman. Brashard Perriman is going to have every opportunity to succeed and to fail. So I'm a huge fan of this pick, and I think that based on the way that this draft has gone so far for me, my original projection was like 107 to 108. That projection is pretty much holding true, but I could see him slipping into like the 105 to 106 range and maybe even a little bit higher. I think that Joe Flacco, with the arm that he has to Brashard Perriman on the deep balls, it could be really special.
Yeah, I know Perriman's going to end up higher than Aguilar on my board, and again, you kind of need to sort them just initially by draft position, then sort of break ties within those tiers in the draft, and so Perriman just kind of naturally will slot in that maybe 1.6, 1.7 range just out of the bat here, and we're still waiting. There's plenty of running back situational talent that could potentially bump him down where he's fresh. Perriman's fresh on everybody's minds now, but suddenly we get past day 2 and that sort of shifts when we get a lot more skill positions drawn into the fray.
I consider Perriman's like a perfect storm situation. He's got the talent to be super successful, and the situation is perfectly ripe. I mean, he has absolutely no competition there. The best receiver playing with him is Steve Smith, who's basically playing on crutches these days. After that, you have really nothing. I mean, you got a couple upside guys like Crockett Gilmore. I mean, what does he have to compete with? I would venture to say that he's going to probably have close to 100 somewhere in the range of 100 to 120 targets this year.
Wow, I was going to say something like 90 to maybe he's getting over 100 just with how that offense works. I wanted to ask you because it seems like, I mean, we sort of projected this to some degree, but let's look beyond, the Cooper, White, Gurley, and even if you want to throw Gordon in there, I mean, potentially these rookie picks of 105 and 106 could have a lot of value if you're getting someone potentially like Devontae Parker and Brashad Perriman who land with functional quarterbacks and land in situations where, I mean, they should see some good initial opportunity as a rookie to really sort of keep that value and if not exceed it in the first 6 months you own them.
Yeah, I just feel like that's like a foolproof situation for him. And dynasty owners, I think they'd be silly to pass him up in the 106, 107 range. I really do, because we're at the part of the first round right now where we're in the later half of the first round, right? So anyone that you're thinking about taking ahead of Perriman at this point, they're going to be early to late second round picks probably. And could their situation be a bit juicier? Yes. But is their upside going to be as high? I highly doubt it. I mean, when's the last time that we saw a guy come into the NFL that legitimately ran a 4.2, 4.40?
I don't know.
Chris Johnson.
Chris Johnson. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah. Long time ago.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel, what are your thoughts on some of the players we've been discussing, whether it's Perriman or Dorial Green Beckham here, or maybe even Jalen Strong finishing up the first round here?
I was actually just thinking about DGB. I'm very surprised that he hasn't been taken yet. I mean, I'm a little higher on him than some, so just very surprised that he hasn't been taken.
So, I mean, this is a good scenario for you, though, because not many, regardless of kind of where he goes. I mean, maybe, I guess, if he goes to a real juicy situation here, maybe it's New Orleans or something, could sort of get it back to, I mean, some people had him 104 to 106 pre-NFL draft, but it looks like for those that like Beckham, I mean, he could potentially be available as that real high risk, high reward sort of option that strong dynasty teams drafting in the late first round are going to get a crack at, and sort of fits an already strong team. You just stock them back on your roster and see what happens.
What's going to be really interesting is to see if he goes in the back half of the first round or if he makes it to the second day. I could see that affecting his dynasty stock just a little bit. He may end up, if he slides to that second day, he may end up with a weaker team, weaker situation.
And what do you think about Byron Jones here? Pretty athletic guy going to Dallas. Do you think he's someone that sort of warrants attention out of the gate for IDP, or is it someone just like a lot of cornerbacks? It's going to depend on the week, and it's going to depend on sort of how the scheme sets up for him out of the gate.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of impact. Nothing that I would spend a high pick on. I think that it's going to be just one of those things where you're going to want to play the week to week.
Yeah. So Katie, we're getting here. Actually, Detroit is up. We're going to get back to Doug here in a second, but Detroit, we've talked about potentially a running back. He said Tevin Coleman should be on the forefront. If they were to go running back, Katie, who would you like Detroit to go here from a dynasty owner's perspective?
I like T.J. Yeldon better than the other ones, honestly, but
that's a good answer, by the way. That's a strong answer.
I don't think Ajayi is the right fit there. I like Ajayi. I like him less with some of the things I've been hearing, not the knee part, but about his vision. I'm not a big Coleman fan or Abdullah, so I mean,
yeah.
You just shake them all up. There's a handful of about 5 or 6 that you shake them up and you roll the dice. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. I think Yeldon is the most complete of the remaining backs.
Yeah, because when you look at this next group that could go from now till pick 50 or 60, it's like, Coleman, Abdullah, Ajayi, Johnson. I mean, to me, Yeldon is the one that kind of checks the most boxes and is the one that you would kind of project that a year from now, if Joique Bell or insert current starter on whatever team takes him here, that he would be the one that ultimately emerges as the next starter, the next 3 down back in that situation. let's go back out to Doug, and he is out. So now that the pick is in, they haven't traded again. Pulled the Patriots. Doug, what are you hearing? What's the scuttlebutt around Detroit Bar for?
The scuttlebutt is that the Lions are just going to shock us, and we really have no idea what they're going to do, to be honest.
Max Williams.
Everyone, quit saying Max Williams. I'm tired of that talk.
Okay, Clive Walford.
Okay, I like Clive Walford better. You're right.
They're recreating
He's
the
better in
Patriots
the
offense
open
with 2
field.
tight ends.
And I'm hearing Malcolm Brown, Randy Gregory's still available. That'd be a solid pick. I just hope God they don't accept a running back. Well, here we go. Here we go. You ready for the reaction here? This is going to be between 4 guys.
Oh, my God. It's neither of those guys.
Lakin Tomlinson. Perfect. Exactly what we needed. Exactly.
I hear nothing. I hear Doug
NFC North,
nothing.
get afraid.
Offense.
Here we come.
That's the exact reaction
Here we
offensive
come,
line
baby.
picks get.
This is okay. So let me explain why this is just a stupid pick, right? You just
This must-see TV. What we're waiting for here.
You just trade for Manny Ramirez, who's going to come in and start immediately for you at guard, which means last year's 3rd-round pick Travis Swanson is going to swing out to the right guard because Larry Wolford's basically a perennial Pro Bowler at this point, and Riley Reif's one hell of a right tackle. The only deficiency you really have is that right tackle, but Adrian Waddle can play really well when he's healthy. So to me, this is just an absolute waste of a pick. This is how the Lions operate. You know what? There's days. This is
Do you quit?
Draft day is the day that I want to renounce my Lions fandom. This once the season hits, I'm fine. I'm over everything. I'm like, Lakin Tomlinson's probably going to be a great guard. But right now, I don't like it. I think it's dumb.
I don't know if you read the screen. He was first team All ACC, Doug. This is significant business, and he went to Duke.
There's great prospects coming out of Duke these days. Yeah. If they off the basketball court.
Chad, you were there. Did Doug scream as loudly about this pick as he did about taking Gurley at 101?
Oh man!
I think we're in a league together where we have the 101. So we'll have some. I think we have
102.
We have the 102. So I guess we'll both win and get our guys, and it'll all be fun.
Yep.
But man, actually, what I want to do. Let's do a little rewind to last year. So the Lions just picked Eric Ebron. So we'll just pretend like we react to that all over again.
I'm going to go ahead and say that I hated that pick more.
Yeah.
Because is it me or does Tomlinson look like a professor? Look at him. He looks like Sherman Klump.
Does he play at Duke or does he teach at Duke?
Hercules.
No.
That's what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What
was the question again? You walk over, you're limping back. I don't know. I missed the question. I'm sorry. I'm lost in my own dismay right now.
No question.
No. Good question.
Yeah. So we'll. Are you here to stay, Doug? Or are you tuning out and have a couple more brewskis?
I'm done having brewskis. Doug's got to drive home tonight, and DUIs. I can't afford it on my UTH salary, so. Yeah. I'm gonna be out. I'm gonna be out for the rest of the night, but I will hopefully join Chad tomorrow for some round 2 action if he has some time.
Yeah, this was a blast, and I know we're still a few picks. We got 4 picks left here, but this has been a blast. Already. I'll thank everybody at the end, but thanks for everybody that came on. And Katie's been a trooper. She's been here. She's been here for the duration. She was probably like, hey, as long as I might as well have the screen up, right?
Right. She's like, I'm getting on at 3 p.m. just to make sure I don't miss it.
I know. She was bugging me at 7. She was like, let's open this thing. Let's open the door to this thing.
Hey, I did get to say I did get to do my one trade.
Right. So we've got the Colts here. Probably don't expect a skill position. Unless I would love for them to backfill Frank Gore and Frank Gore to be be a one-man operation, a one-year play, and but we're looking again. We've discussed it already a couple times in the first round here with potentially Max Williams going to Green Bay, and Daniel, you mentioned they could go with Kendricks, who is still
He's
available.
still on the board, amazingly.
Yeah, still a good fit. So, and the Saints, I think, are Saints and Patriots very intriguing from maybe get a pass catcher, and the Patriots could be in the market for a running back because maybe they don't want to go into round 2 and they have a preference of this next big grouping that we mentioned after the big 2 go off the board early.
The Patriots are not going to take a running back.
Okay, calling it here first.
No, they won't.
And this is from someone who got a lot of the picks right in round 1. I mean, she was just like, I don't know if you remember the first hour of the show. I mean, she was just nails.
Yeah, the Williams pick came 6, so I got 5 out of the top 6.
5 out of the top 6, and that can be your claim to fame. I mean, you're going to go into next year as like one of the top draft nicks out there. I mean, just keep saying that. I got 5 of 6. I called all the top trades. I got all the trades in the top 10. Like, I called that. I called my own shot there. Yeah, so
I don't know if the Colts pick is in yet, but I do note that they really need some help on the defensive line. Josh Chapman has been a really big disappointment for them and did not perform well in 2014. So you could see a nose tackle here.
Yeah, and well, we mentioned, right, I'm kind of surprised, Malcolm Brown, for as much talk as he got, like he was a surefire guy in the 20s at least. I mean, he could be falling out of the round. Now that's a very real possibility.
Eddie Goldman's still on the board, right?
Yep.
I'm thinking, that might be where the Patriots are looking because cornerbacks that they were looking at are probably gone, and they need some help defensively or a guard, but big guard just got taken, so they may even trade out of the round if they don't like the defensive player that's there.
Yep. We got ER Tim. We got recovering Tim back in. Get some reaction here on the last few picks, and we're closing up round 1. I mean, it was kind of an easy start to the, a lot of chalk early, but now we're getting a lot of curveballs here with some trades and with some picks we didn't expect.
Yeah, the Brashad Perryman pick. I gotta say, as a Steelers fan, I hate it. I burning them in the fourth quarter all the time, but I like that pick for Perryman. I think.
Okay, yeah. Doug was saying it's real good out of the gate. I mean, initial opportunity should be outstanding for him to maintain or increase his value in the first season.
Yep, yeah, I like that pick there for him.
Who's your guy out of we've seen out of the first the first 2 or 3 are probably going to be static on a lot of people's boards, but of that next group of skill position players we've seen go off, is Perriman your favorite in terms of if you got 104, 105? I mean, is he your kind of target, your favorite guy in rookie drafts with just the early going?
Yeah, I'd say behind Devontae Parker. I like
Okay.
the Miami landing spot. I like that offense. I mean, how are you going to double team somebody in that offense with Kenny Stills, Jordan Cameron, solid running? But after that, I'd say Perryman. Yeah, I like that. I like that more than I like the Aguilar.
Okay. Do you like the wide receiver heavy approach to start? I mean, would you have Parker at like 3 or 4, and then Perriman right after that?
Yeah, I'd have. Yep, that's probably how I would put it.
And are you buying Gordon with? I mean, would you be taking the receivers over Gordon?
Yeah, Gordon. I don't like his lack of passing proficiency.
I sold you. I
Yeah,
beat that horse into the ground.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
true. And what you guys were saying earlier, I haven't watched as much film on him as what it sounded like you and Katie had, but yeah, that bouncing it out to the outside, because you're not going to be able to beat NFL defenders like that.
Wow. How about I got to interrupt this
Philip
pick?
Dorsett.
We got to get Philip Dorsett to the Colts. Talk about
Wow.
surrounding Andrew Luck with weapons. I mean,
I'm glad I sold Deron Carter.
As if Deron Carter wasn't worthless already. If his roster spot isn't in jeopardy for week 1, like I said.
I got 2/3 for him.
Like, exactly, you got 2/3. Doug, if he comes in here, he might just start screaming like as he enters the hangout. So I'll be ready for that. But so this is, again, I mean, Dante Moncrief, is this a sign that he's just plainly not? I mean, he was the 3rd-round pick maybe for a reason. I mean, we love the measurables, but they bring in Andre Johnson, who can be a short-term option. Philip Dorsett can operate out of the slot, who can take the top off. I mean, this is going to be an interesting scenario with Hilton and Dorsett potentially over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of people say that. Oh, well, Dorsett isn't T.Y. Hilton, but yet there's that poor man's T.Y. Hilton comparison I've heard from some people.
Yeah.
And the Dante Moncrief truther, that really kind of hurts deep.
Mm-hmm. I know Dan likes Dante a lot.
Yeah, I do. You know, the only thing that I think about this, though, is that, you know, they are very different receivers and will play different spots. So maybe that's Moncrief's saving grace here. But, yeah, you are going to have a lot of people start that hand-wringing back up, Doug.
Yeah. I mean, well...
Chad, sorry.
Yeah, here's the thing is Hilton's not really your traditional outside receiver, and neither is Dorsett. So I still kind of think, I mean, just like the Mason deal, I mean, this is a chance potentially. You like Moncrief. This is your chance to get a nice chunk discount right now. I mean, like putting out an offer for him tonight/tomorrow where, I mean, really, I'm not going to say, you know, lowball to the point of scaring them off, but I mean, especially with rookie picks, right? I mean, throw out your 2nd-round rookie pick for Moncrief and see what happens, because you're going to get a better physical talent and someone locked in with a better quarterback. You got some of that depth chart uncertainty, and that's the reason you'll get a discount from. I mean, Moncrief was like a top 40 startup pick, just as recently as a few months ago.
It makes me wonder too about T.Y. Hilton. When's he a free agent?
Yeah, he's got to be up in the next couple of years. So
makes you wonder if they're not going to want to, you know, spend big dollars on him and yet still have that small, quick guy in Dorsett that can fill that role.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not the biggest Dorsett guy, so I'm not. Again, he's just sort of, you got Aguilar and Dorsett, and 2 guys that, from a personal perspective in rookie drafts, I mean, I hope they get boosted up situationally. You know, they go to 2 of the juiciest offenses aesthetically in the league, and fantasy owners flock. That's what they do, and I was waiting to see all the overreactions, and it took a while. It took a while, but we got 2 now locked in to where, I mean, does Dorsett go above Perriman because of, hey, he gets the quarterback, hey, he's got the nice shiny Andrew Luck for his quote-unquote entire career. So we just talked about Perriman. Well, Dorsett could have more shiny appeal to some people.
Yeah, I like it because it, again, pushes other value back and raises some awareness. I don't think that Dorsett was on everybody's radar. Looking at the ADPs and just everything, you know, he was going mid to late second.
Yeah, and now he'll be what, top 10 to 12?
Yep.
Yeah.
And again, pushing some of those running backs into the 2nd round, like a David Johnson and a Malcolm Brown, and, you know, even pushing them back even further, so the late seconds will get a chance at some love.
Yeah. Tim, what are your thoughts on the how are you just positionally, do you kind of agree that whether it's the mid-second on or wherever your point is, like this is a golden opportunity this year to really stash away 2, 3, 4 rookie running backs that are going to be more talented than the rookie slot you're going to get them?
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at, I have in one league 203, and some of the guys that could fall there, I mean, you know, Amir Abdullah, David Johnson, I really like a lot, and I've got another one at 208. Where you've got guys like Mike Davis, David Cobb, and Jeremy Langford. You know, I've got another one at 303. I'm thinking I could probably even pick up somebody there that's you know, reasonable. I'm trying to pick up another one at 204 because I think that prime spot. And like you said, I mean,
Dorsett was going in the second, and now all of a sudden he's up and he's going 10th or 11th. I mean, that's just gold falling right down the chart there. I don't really like it.
And going into day 2, we need to remember that, I mean, there's plenty of these running back depth charts that we're still going to have first-round rookie picks coming out from the running back position based on those 2 or 3 choice spots left, whether they're fool's gold and we shouldn't be buying into maybe average talents that go there, or if it is the perfect storm with someone that was, what I love is just, okay, are they a target player? And then when they go to that perfect spot, you know, if you love David Johnson, he goes to one of those 3 or 4 choice spots, boom, the equation works, and they become a clear target player across the board.
Yep.
So the Packers here, again, we talked Max Williams. Is this the pick? And it is not the pick. They end up going defense. I'm slow playing this for Katie so she can she can get it on her feed. It is
Marius Randall.
They go defense. They go IDP. We lost our IDP guru, but as a safety, this is someone that's going to be interesting from this capacity because, I mean, I'm going to be the simpleton here and go, well, you got a high-flying Packers offense, which means the other offense is going to throw the ball a little more. You're going to get a safety out in space, cleaning up, making tackles, especially in the second half when the other team's down by a touchdown or 2, and that's a good combination, especially with someone you get them with some pedigree in the first round. They're going to get every chance to start or at least be a role player out of the gate, and just clog it up, make some tackles. You're seeing it on the highlight reel. He can make some plays on tight ends and guys from the slot. So
I like that pick for them because I mean they've got 3 quality wide receivers now. Do you really need a high-end pass-catching tight end? And I've always found their use of the tight end overrated. I mean, I'm blanking on his name, the guy that's injured and out of the league, but he was going to break out every year. He was
Jermichael Finley. He was like Ladarius Green before Ladarius Green, but like times 3.
He'd have like a big primetime game. It was like every time it was prime time, he'd have a big game.
That game against the Cardinals in the playoffs, I remember, like he was unstoppable.
Yep.
And then just poof. And he was like, I think he was the number 1 tight end coming off the board, and this was back when Antonio Gates was sort of leaving his prime. And I remember Finley was like, in startups you'd get him in round 3, round 4, and it was just like, yeah, man, you got to get him. You got to scoop him up. He's 23 with Aaron Rodgers, and he's the next big thing, and he was the next something. That's for sure. Just did absolutely nothing, like never put it together. And
I always think that tight end spot's like a mirage. People always look at that, and they never seem to quite materialize there. Well, and who needs to when you've got Devontae Adams as your 3rd receiver?
Right. Katie, who do you want for the Saints here? Do you think tight end makes sense with Max Williams making it all the way now to the bottom of the 1st, or do you think wide receiver for their offense might make a little more sense?
Well, it really could be either, and I would like to see either one of them. I think definitely a skill position here. I was just trying to, Dorial Green Beckham being such a big target with Drew Brees, that actually might make some sense. Devin Funchess for the, potentially, and I do like Max Williams. So any one of those 3 guys could be potential here.
Yep. Well, and they've already acquired a center, already drafted another offensive lineman. So you would hope the protection's better, and Beckham. Right, he might fit with that because they lost Stills, and I know they kind of have that rotational deep role, and now you get someone that's legitimately oversized and a monster physically. I mean, you could if Breeze gets some time, I mean that could be a connection that really works and opens things up for Cooks and for Spiller and a lot of the underneath things going on that they would love to get going again in that offense.
And I like what they've done with their offensive line. Their earlier pick, just raises my Mark Ingram and C.J. Spiller stock up. Like to see when they really fill the gap. But right now, I think it would make a lot of sense to get someone that can get some touchdowns.
Do you think Spiller? I kind of think he's really trendy. That people aren't on to the fact that what if he's Darren Sproles but like more dynamic? God forbid.
I've been buying ever since CJ was injured last year. I've been buying a lot of CJ Spiller stock for cheap, and with the anticipation that he wasn't going to be a Bill, and that he was finally going to get used in a way that would be suiting his talent. I still think he's incredibly talented, and I think that the New Orleans fit with Mark just running it up the middle and him being the Darren Sproles role, I think it's a great fit for him, and I think it's a great fit for New Orleans. I think he's plug and play.
Yeah, he's going to get so many turf games where they're really going to utilize him in space, and you just watched dozens and dozens of Bills games, and you were like, can you get him in space? They would line him up even as a receiver, and they just, even in that capacity, they would misuse him. And now if they can just get him on the perimeter, use him in that fashion, you kind of feel like, yeah, he may not get 150 touches, but he may get 70 catches and just really maximize things.
Yeah, in PPR, I think that like I said, I've been buying a lot of his stock pretty cheaply and stockpiling it over the last year.
That's a smart play. Yeah.
Yeah, and one player we did mention was Kerry Robinson. I mean, he's kind of he turns into, you're kind of hoping for an Ingram injury because he fits that.
No, not.
Oh, sorry, that can't happen. So Ingram stays healthy for 16, and he fuels all Katie's championships, and then Robinson moves to another team where potentially he's relevant. All right, got the storyline all right. So pick is in. We're just kind of waiting. We allocated there's 3 skill position guys that are in play here, but again they could always go defense, and we wait for another day because we do think they'll address the pass catchers in some capacity here, and probably on day 2, if not right here. So pick is in. Announcement is in 30 seconds. It's going to be for Katie, but for us, it is not a pass catcher. It is actually a linebacker. I'm going to need some IDP help.
Man,
So
price is going to be skyrocketing.
Yeah.
Going up if it isn't already.
Yep. So anyway, so they do not go offense. They bolster the offensive line. So it is still the Brandon Cooks show, and so they pass on Beckham, they pass on Max Williams, and we will see on day 2. It'll be pretty interesting. They also pass on Jalen Strong. He's someone we haven't mentioned for a little bit now. That he seemed like that, between 15 and 25, a decent bet, and just hasn't gotten a sniff yet. So now we're at 32, which I can't remember who it was, was it you, Katie, saying they're not going to go?
I said they're not going running back.
They're not going running back. I mean, maybe Devin Funchess as that movable pieces in play.
I'd love to see Doyle, Green, Beckham go there. I mean,
yeah.
Well,
with their track record, right? The storyline is they just can't pick a wide receiver to save their keisters. So, I mean, maybe we don't want a wide receiver to go there. But let's just say a wide receiver does go to New England here. We're finishing up round 1. Actually, some decent time. We're under 3.5 hours. And so, anyway, if a wide receiver does go here, I would have to think that they're going to be in the top 8 or so mix of rookie drafts, just with that situational bump of the names we've mentioned. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's a Sammy Coates even. I mean, we haven't brought his name up. I mean, they could go, or Devin Smith. I mean, you never know with the Patriots sort of what they're looking for, because we know they don't look for typically the guys that produce for us.
I'm going to say Eddie Goldman or if not defensive tackle, then somebody on the line.
Yeah.
I don't think they go wide receiver here. I just don't, and I hope they don't.
All right. You there, Jordan? Is Jordan getting on the gravy train here at the very end?
Hey, what's up, guys?
He is here. So we're talking Patriots. In a second, we'll give you a chance to kind of clean up on some of the loose ends, your reactions to round 1. But here with the Patriots, we've been discussing potentially a pass catcher. What do you think they do to close up round 1 here?
Yeah, pass catcher definitely makes sense. Either Jalen Strong or maybe they take a chance on a Dorial Green Beckham. They think their locker room's strong, but maybe
Okay.
they don't because the whole Hernandez thing.
Yeah. Do you think Devin Funch is in play with maybe using him as a just sort of a movable piece with Gronk there?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Give some scheme versatility. They
Or
can, double tight, and they can line them up outside and get Gronk on one side and Funchess on the other. That causes problems.
cool. Or it's probably what it's probably going to be is some lineman or non-skill position player that I've never heard of. That's also
Exactly.
the Patriots move. And again, the move actually would be to trade out. So if they could move in, move down 8 to 10 picks, that seems like the Patriot way
Oh yeah.
as well. So as we're waiting, the pick is in. We're kind of waiting for the announcement here. Jordan, give us maybe, I mean, if you want to go back to the train that we've been talking about with Todd Gurley,
Yeah.
or Brashad Perriman getting a nice landing spot, Devontae Parker maybe slipping a few spots than people expected. What were some of your big takeaways in terms of shaping your rookie board?
Yeah. Gurley's been my one-on-one pretty much through the whole process.
Are you
I felt
shaking?
comfortable with him from the get-go, and his where he went, was a big shock. I got quite a few shares of Mason. I'm sure you guys do too. He's been kind of a UTH poster boy kind of a guy. But hey,
depressed.
I mean, yeah, I am a little bit depressed because I got 101 in a couple of leagues traded for last year, and now it's kind of like, do I handcuff? Where am I at now?
That's a talented handcuff right there.
I know. So I don't know what to do with Gurley yet.
Okay.
Melvin obviously went in a great spot. He basically slots in right now as the starter with basically, maybe
Not
Woodhead
much.
takes some PPR upside away from him, but otherwise, it's all him.
Well, how much upside did Gordon really have in PPR?
Right, yeah, he didn't have much anyway. So
yeah,
I think Perriman went in a great spot because they have nobody. Steve Smith's like 40 by now, and
how are you? What was your reaction to maybe the Parker, Aguilar, Dorsett and Perriman? Just did one stick out and you're like, mid first, that's my guy?
Yeah, definitely with Parker immediately. Okay. There were about 4 picks there where I'm like, man, this team has to be running to the podium for Parker, and they just kept passing him. And then he goes to the Dolphins. I'm like, oh my God, my shares of Ryan Tannehill, love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great spot, and we were calling that from 10 to 12 or so. It was just they all need wide receiver, and they all stared right at him and passed. And as much as I think Perriman has some upside, and Aguilar landed in a good spot. Parker was kind of it for teams in that range. That this was your look. This was your look at a guy that kind of projects as a number one, someone that has quite a bit of upside in that top 15, and just they passed. I was just surprised.
Yeah, definitely surprised.
Wow. I was right on the position, just wrong guy.
And that's someone we discussed the last 10 picks or so. Malcolm Brown goes, not the running back Malcolm Brown, right. But the Patriots just scoop up another front seven defender. They love stockpiling, and again, scheme diverse. That's the Patriot way right there. Whether it's offense or defense, they want to be multiple in everything they do. So as we're finishing up, so we got Tennessee on the clock here to start round 2 tomorrow. So this podcast, long 3.5-hour version, will be up before very early in the morning. So let's go around the horn. Jordan, final thoughts on round 1, and we didn't see many trades until about halfway through, but just big takeaways for you, and maybe a player or two that you're surprised didn't go, and you're really looking forward to the first 10 picks or so of round 2.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to guys like T.J. Yeldon. He got linked to Dallas earlier in the week. I think that would be an amazing spot for him, that he could start week 1 and surprise some people. A lot of people have him at that late first round range, and even have a couple of people over him, and he built up boards in a hurry. in rookie drafts, kind of be that third or fourth running back off the board. And if a guy, for whatever reason doesn't like where Gurley went, doesn't like the talent anymore, he could take him as the first or the second, going in that situation. But like I said, I think Parker went to a great spot. I've seen some people have Parker as their number one or number two wide receiver ahead of Cooper or ahead of White at the 2 spot. So I think for those people, he definitely solidified himself as the number 2 in their minds. He's right there. When I watched the film on Parker, the one thing I was afraid of was he gets jammed a lot at the line.
A big physical
and
guy.
I worry that he's kind of like that AJ Green type. So
not everyone's AJ Green, right?
No, exactly. But when I watch him on film, I'm like, man, sometimes. So he's right up there for my initial reactions. I like Parker. I like where he went. I think he's got a chance to be up there.
So Yeldon, and who from maybe the pass catchers? I mean, we didn't see Max Williams go, who we thought had a real good shot to go round 1. But whether it's Beckham or Strong, 2 surprising ones we thought would probably go in the 20s. Coates, Funchess. I mean, if you're a Devin Smith or Lockett kind of guy, I mean, what's the pass catcher you're looking for? And you're just like, I can't wait to see where he goes because I like the talent so much.
Yeah. I think maybe early in round 2, Atlanta maybe looks at Max Williams and says, "Hey, we have a hole at tight end. We got our defensive player. We kind of missed out on Gurley or anything like that some people had him mocked there. So you go tight end, you fortify that pass catching group for Matt Ryan, and then I'm really interested to see where Funchess goes. I don't really like the talent, to be honest with you. I think."
But he's just intriguing, right?
Big.
I mean, he just sort of has that appeal of what if just a big sort of weapon, and in the right offense, you think he could excel. But also, if he goes to the wrong offense, I mean, he could be completely worthless.
Exactly.
All right, Katie, 100%. You are up. Closing out round 1, reactions, and maybe the guy or two you're really looking forward to early on day 2.
All right. First off, I want to give a couple of shout-outs. I had some text messages and a Twitter message. A couple of UTH followers. Ben Mitchell, he said, well, Gurley will be a pretty ram. And he knows how much I love Todd, so, that one hurts. And then from Nicholas Savoy, he said, enjoying the Hangout. Thanks very much for doing this.
Yeah.
So that's cool. As far as I'm really in shock still about the Mariota pick. I think that's bad for him and his professional career, and I don't think it's a great fit for Tennessee. And I agree with what Daniel had said earlier. The Titan fan, they're just going to try to throw him in day 1. I don't think that they have a lot of faith in Mettenberger. I really am interested to see what they could do in rounds 2 and 3 to shore up their offensive line because, like I said, Mariota's a runner. He's going to be running for his life. And, I'm very glad to see Randy Gregory slide out of the first round and pay a little bit for his transgressions. Looking forward to seeing where Chris Conley lands.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing where David Johnston lands.
Oh, yeah. My boy DJ.
Yeah, and Mike Davis, too. I know he and Cobb are kind of intertwined. I look at them both very, very similar. In our rookie mock, I was very close to taking Cobb, and I took Davis instead. And tomorrow I might take Cobb, and then the next day Davis. It's one of those 50-50 type propositions, and it's going to end up where they go.
Yep.
I love Amari Cooper with Derek Carr. Absolutely.
Yeah, love it.
I love Kevin White in Chicago. So anyway.
Yeah. And I wanted to plug at Jordan Spires, and for Katie, it's at FF_Skyler399. That's always tough for me to say. So now let's pass it to Tim. Tim. Tell us about your Twitter and also just some reactions and what you're looking for tomorrow night.
Yeah, my Twitter is at Third Down Theory.
And what I get most interest out here with this first round is just the way I see value just shifting around, whether it's actual value or perceived value, kind of the mix-up that you have there with Trey Mason, the Colts bringing in another wide receiver, just trying to see how things sort out, how people perceive it, and how I can, and UTH subscribers can take advantage of trying to buy low on guys like that. And I'm really intrigued to see when I think there's going to be a run on running backs somewhere in the second round. Tevin Coleman, David Johnson, Amir Abdullah. I mean, there's still a ton of guys out there. Just seeing where they shake out. And then again, that's just going to send a bunch of other running backs just kind of plummeting down in perceived value. I'm looking to send out some buys tomorrow for sure. Well, maybe not tomorrow. Maybe after my sedation wears off, maybe Saturday.
There you go.
Joining you guys for part 2 this tomorrow. So.
Yeah, and so again, I just wanted to reiterate. I mean, Tim and Katie, and thanks for jumping on at the end there, Jordan, and weighing in. And this is a blast. I mean, we didn't do anything in this regard last year, but this really is a fun experience and just enhances what the draft is in terms of just the new reality, the new toys that we've been discussing. As Doug says, they finally have a home where it's just tough for people to connect that the player I've been studying for college tape and combine pre-draft process, and until they really have a uniform and a situation, a landing spot, it's just tough for people to really wrap their head around rookie pick value, and I still think that's maybe the most unearthed way to mine value, because it takes until now where people now finally say, well, this is how much the 101 is worth because it's player X to me. And hopefully now that the trades start flowing, people are going to go, okay, well, 101 for me is Gurley or is Cooper, and so they're going to now have a more tangible way to sort of view those deals, because I think a lot of people, it's mystical. Oh, it's so and so for the 104, and 104 is nothing. It's air. It's the idea of a player in May. It's not really a player now, and it's just so that's something I'm trying to sort of educate and promote in terms of, well, we know the players because you have your own board pre-draft, post-draft, and anyway, this is great. We got to talk sort of NFL strategy along with Dynasty along the way, and we had some surprises. Finally got some trades going. IDP, got to send some love to Daniel for coming on, and Eric Kendricks ended up not going here at the end of round 1, sort of that linebacker piece for that. But anyway, I wanted to thank everybody. So that is round 1, uthdynasty.com Hangout. Hopefully it becomes an annual tradition, and we'll see how my voice feels in the morning. Maybe I'll be rethinking that with some honey tea. But wanted to thank everyone for coming on and contributing, whether it was for 2 minutes or Katie, like, she was my rock. She was here at 7:45, just dominating for Tim coming from the ER. So thanks to everyone for contributing, and get this up on iTunes.
Thanks, Chad.